It's 9 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm your new chair, Mark Woodruff. Happy to be here. Actually, I've been here for 4 years, just sitting in different chair, right? So anyway, big shoes to follow with Scott's departure, but suffice to say he's happy. He called me Thursday to let me know how happy he is, actually. So anyway, we have a long agenda today, and in fact, the staff pointed out maybe the longest ever when we were going over it earlier, and which I, of course, appreciate as my first one to chair. But with that, we'll try to move quickly, but we want to encourage you all to participate as well. Some housekeeping items here. If you're signed up for the your continuing ed out here, then you'll need to, you can get up to 4 hours, but you'll have to sign in and sign out, sign back in after lunch in order to get your credit. So we think lunch will be, probably around 11:30 or 12, but again, we'll just see how the agenda. So I think we'll start with the pledges. So I'm going to ask Robert Hood, Director Robert Hood, to lead us in the national anthem, or pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Director Mandel, would you? You got this one?
I got this one.
Okay,
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. All right, thank you all. Okay, so let's see, we have Commissioner Bernstein is probably going to be a few minutes late, but I'll recognize him when he comes in. He had something to take care of. Also, I want to welcome our new commissioners, right? We have Commissioner J.B. Goodwin. They're on the end of the table. He's from the Austin area and been involved in this business a long time, I know.
Old, very old.
We won't talk about that because I don't want to talk about it.
Don't want to talk about it.
And then Commissioner Christy Davis here to my left. So from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, correct? So welcome, new commissioners. We are still missing a public member, and I think the special session and that sort of thing has trumped, so to speak, the need for us to have that additional member. But we'll do fine. We can, navigate through all that. So in terms of how this will go, I should have mentioned also that we'll have a workshop, commissioner workshop at the lunch hour, and then we'll return around 1 o'clock, give or take. But I'll tell you about the times exactly when we get there. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is, well, first off, we have a lot of appointments and that sort of thing, but the first thing we're going to do is elect a vice chair. So I'd like to open the floor for nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Pena for vice chair.
Thank you. A second? We have a second? Second. Okay. So hearing any conversation or any other nominations? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Actually, we could have probably not even voted on that. Okay, now, we're going to have some appointments to the Enforcement Committee. You're going to go through several of these. So these are ones that with, every 2 years we have commissioners come, commissioners go, so we have to, reshuffle all these assignments. All right, Enforcement, I've appointed Commissioner Pena as the chair and Commissioner Bernstein to the committee. And in talking with the current members are Commissioner Pena, Renee Harvey Lowe, and Stuart Bernstein. We may add somebody that at a later date, but right now that's what we're going to do. Budget Committee. Oh, this is the fun one. Of course, it looks like I'm the chair again, so of the Budget Committee. So that's good. And then current members are Stuart Bernstein, and we would like to ask Commissioner Goodwin to join us on that. I think he would do an excellent job there. We have the TREC and TALCB Joint Audit Committee, which we've appointed also Commissioner Goodwin to that, if he's willing to serve in that. And he would replace Commissioner Brown and current members. You can thank me later. I mean, I can tell you're torn up over that, but yeah. But then, so we would have the chair of the audit committee continues Commissioner Pena, and then Commissioner Goodwin and Chance Bolton, the TALCB chair. So liaison to the Texas Real Estate Committee, or Inspector Committee, is Leslie Lerner, so she'll continue as that, Commissioner Lerner. The liaison to the Education Standards Advisory Committee, that will be Commissioner Davis. So, thank you for that. That ought to be right in your wheelhouse, I think. So, okay, the liaison to broker responsibility. Current liaisons will be Commissioner Brown and then Commissioner Lerner. So, Commission liaison to Texas Real Estate Broker Lawyer Committee will continue to be Commissioner Renee Harvey Lowe. So, thank you for that. Ex officio, Texas A&M, we have Commissioner Davis. So, thank you for that. So, welcome and thank you all for serving in these roles. Very important, and we have a lot of work to do, and will continue to be so. Now, the Broker Lawyer Committee, appointments to the Broker Lawyer Committee, Selection Committee. The recommendations are Ron Walker, which is a reappointment, and Candy Lunsman? Okay, and the alternate will be Marcus Phipps. If I could get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Okay, now we want to, Broker Lawyer Committee, for all of you that, are familiar with it, it is one of the hardest working committees we have, and with all the form changes and everything going on, you can only imagine what's involved there. So we'd like to thank some departing members. S.J. Swanson is here, I think, with us. Would you come up and maybe get a picture and recognized? I think we're waiting still on our certificates. What's that? Oh, both of them at the same time. Okay, sorry about that. Rookie mistake. And then Lee York, who is also a departing member. Thank you very much. The whole state thanks you for that. All right, thank you very, very much. Okay, we're going to have an vote on appointments to the Education Standards Advisory Committee. So I have Commissioner Christy Davis. And if we'd like additional volunteers, I guess, we can ask for that.
Yeah, so this is for the selection committees.
Selection
for
committee, I'm
the
sorry.
two advisory committees, the Education Standards Advisory Committee, ESAC, and then the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee, or the Inspector Committee. So the point of this for the newer commissioners is that you would, that the chair would appoint a couple members to
Right.
serve on a selection committee, to then choose some of next year's members for those two committees.
Right. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brown would be happy to be involved in that. Anyone else? Commissioner Goodwin? Commissioner Lerner, I don't want to forget about you over there. You're what's that?
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Oh, we've got 1, 2, how many do we need?
3 is fine. 3 or 4 is fine.
Okay, Commissioner Lerner. Would you be interested in that? Okay. Commissioner Davis. More the merrier.
Makes it easier when looking through those applications.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, going through these, yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Okay, and a committee to review applicants of the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee. We have Commissioner Lerner, Chair Lee Warren back there with us. And then there's a third member. Would someone like to volunteer for that? Okay, Commissioner Lowe would be happy to do that. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to get into the staff and committee reports. So first off, we have the Education Standards Advisory Committee. So the Director of Education, Jennifer Wheeler. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Woodruff and Commissioners, and welcome new members. I am Jennifer Wheeler, Director of Education and Exams. For the record, ESAC Chair Bill Stedham was unable to make it to Austin today for this meeting, so I'll be providing the report on his behalf. During its July 7, 2025 meeting, the Education Standards Advisory Committee reviewed legislative changes and how they affect education requirements, specifically Senate Bill 1968, yes, which, as you know, is TREC's housekeeping bill. Of note, the bill will allow TREC to adjust sales agent qualifying education requirements by rule instead of statute, making for a swifter process to adopt any future changes. While ESAC doesn't plan to make any immediate recommendations, the authority to do so offers opportunities to establish greater equivalency opportunities in the future. It was also noted in the meeting that this legislation will allow public high schools to offer real estate courses without becoming approved education providers, similar to how accredited colleges and universities are able to do so. And as you will hear later today, changes were proposed at the May Commission meeting to 22 TAC Chapter 535 that allow more flexibility for student identity verification and remove proctoring requirements for qualifying course exams without precluding the use of a proctor if so desired. After reviewing public comments, ESAC decided not to make any changes to the proposed rules in advance of this meeting. The next meeting of ESAC is scheduled for Monday, October 6th at 10 a.m., and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I know that we have talked about this, and since we now have the authority to do so, there's been talk of moving brokerage to pre-licensure,
I'm sorry, doing what?
moving the brokerage course, the 30-hour brokerage course, to pre-licensure and replacing perhaps
There has been
finance with
discussion,
that.
yes.
Maybe we'll want to discuss that again now that we can actually do it.
I think it's come up in a side conversation, and we haven't actually been able to dig deep into it because it hasn't been an agenda item, but we can put that as an agenda item, and then it, can be discussed in more detail.
I think it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Okay, report from the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee. I think that's going to be Director Denise Sample.
Yes, good morning, Chair Woodruff and Commissioners. I'm Denise Sample, Director of Licensing, and I'll be presenting the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee report on behalf of the Chair, Ty Williams. So the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee met on July 16th for the first time post the regular legislative session. TREC staff briefed the committee members on the passage of Senate Bill 1968, or TREC's housekeeping bill. The remainder of the meeting was a review of potential changes to the education and experience requirements for a broker license. TREC staff took the recommendations from the BRAC's previous meeting and included them into a draft rule, which will be presented later in the agenda by General Counsel Abby Lee. And these recommended changes, as a summary, include allowing up to 300 of the 630 real estate related education hours to be substituted for experience points earned above the minimum required for the license, to limit the bachelor's degree credit to 300 hours instead of the full 630 hours of real estate related education. And on the experience requirements, members recommended doubling the experience points required from 360 to 720 points, change the property management experience calculation to per property per year instead of just per property, and to modify brokerage management or delegated supervision calculation to a points per transaction model as opposed to number of months serving as a supervisor. So you'll see all of those rules later on in the agenda, but that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, report from the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee, Chair Lee Warren.
Good morning. The Inspector Committee met on July 14th here in Austin at the TREC headquarters. The SOP Standards of Practice Subcommittee is nearing completion of their initial review of the Standards of Practice. They've been working hard on this for some time, and they've been going through every single section individually. The subcommittee is hopeful to have their initial recommendations submitted to the full Inspector Committee at our October meeting, and if that happens, it'll be submitted to you all, the commissioners, here at the November meeting. Based on preliminary discussions and reports from the subcommittee, it is likely that a new promulgated form will be proposed. If that's the case, it will have been over 3 years since the last form revision was adopted. The committee has gone through multiple reviews of the SOP since then and has not changed the form. We do not take this a new form changing the form very lightly. The goal here is that if we are to make changes to the form, let's get them all done in one shot so we don't have to have multiple form changes in the next couple of years causing software issues. Education Subcommittee discussed proposed rule requiring students to complete their coursework prior to starting their practicum for pre-licensure. For new members, practicum is the 40-hour ride-along requirement that is required for pre-licensing. In order to obtain a license, that you have to have 40 hours of doing actual inspections with an experienced inspector. Part of the problem we were running into is that there was no timeline set on the pre-licensure coursework, so some people were going in, signing up for their classes, trying to do the practicum first before doing the actual education. Needless to say, this caused a bit of a problem because the whole point was to do the practicum to apply what you have learned. So we are looking into creating a timeline within the rule to prevent this. We went through a whole revamp of the pre-licensure process a few years ago, and this honestly is just a loophole we never even considered somebody would do. So unfortunately, people do, so we have to fix it, and that's okay. So we found it. We heard feedback from some of the education providers, and we've made adjustments accordingly. Our new legal SOP course, the 8-hour course that is the required continuing education for inspectors, will come out September 1st. This is the third iteration that we've done as TREC. I know on the real estate side, Texas A&M Real Estate Center does a lot of that, does a lot of the training. Being that the numbers are substantially smaller for inspectors, we don't have that opportunity with them, but staff here has been very, very gracious in helping us create a more consistent course for that. Previously, we would just have an outline that was given to the education providers and they could kind of do their own thing. But now it's a full course, just like you would see at the Legal 1 and 2. And it's been getting better with every revision, and that comes out September 1st. So we're looking forward to that. We also discussed about an ongoing concern about inspection companies, how there may be some professional relationships between them and service providers that they're providing to their clients. Inspectors are not allowed to perform any work on a house that they've inspected for at least 12 months. The purpose of this is to ensure that the inspector does not have any possible ulterior motives when calling out deficiencies in a house. There are some inspection companies that refer services to their inspection clients when there are direct or indirect financial connections between the two. This could create a potential issue for consumers that are expecting the inspection to be done by a person or company that has nothing to gain by reporting any deficiency. Committee and staff were looking at possible ways to protect the consumer better in this area as it relates to inspection companies. Many of the rules that are in place were designed with single inspector firms in mind. Over the last few years, there have been a substantial uptick in inspection companies that have multiple inspectors in their employ. Inspection companies should also be careful when advertising to ensure that all advertising rules are being followed, including listing names of all the inspectors. For multi-inspector firms, this may mean that multiple inspector licenses have to be listed. One possible way to address this and the previous issue would be create a corporate license for inspection companies, which was the case back in 2007. It very briefly went into effect that inspection companies had to be licensed. 8716, just to, that I got the license, we did it all right. And then as soon as September 1st hit, Sunset Commission said, never mind, you don't have to do that. So we got rid of it. So because we've seen such an uptick in a lot of inspectors joining big inspection companies, that's creating its own slew of issues. That's one of the things we're considering is actually creating a license for the inspection company itself. That way you're putting the whole company under one umbrella, and that one umbrella covers all inspectors and everybody has to follow the same rules because there's workarounds right now. Unfortunately, the only way to fix that is through a legislative change. So that's going to be on our radar for next legislative change. So that is our report. If anybody has any questions.
What's going on?
Lee, I have a question. In the 40-hour driving apprenticeship, are there any requirements of the person that is doing the mentoring
Yes.
for that?
So they have to be licensed for at least 5 years and have at least 200 inspections, verified inspections under their belt. The thought process for that practicum, as it's called, is to actually the person goes out with that inspector and does the actual inspections, writes the full report just like they're doing it for a client. And the person that is mentoring them is supposed to determine, hey, you followed the SOPs, you did not, whatever, and you filled the form out correctly. The thought process is there's a minimum of at least 5 inspections that person has done on a house so that before they ever walk into a house on their own as a professional inspector, they will have had that background in there. Like I said, the problem with that we run into there is they're trying to get the practicum done early, everything done as quickly as possible. They're doing the practicum first. They have no idea what the SOPs are to follow. So it's impossible for that mentor to do that properly.
Be tough.
Thank you.
Mr. Warren, after licensure, what is the required continuing education for inspectors?
So on the agent side, it's 18 hours with the 8-hour legal 1 and 2, 3 hours contracts, all that fun stuff. On the inspection side, it's 32 hours per license renewal period. 8 hours of that is mandated. It's the legal SOP course. The other 24 hours can be whatever the inspector chooses, so long as there's not more than 16 hours in one general topic. So basically, you can't take 24 hours of all electrical and then take the same course over and over. Again, that was one of those little loopholes that nobody thought of in the beginning, but we fixed later on because we found that somebody who was an inspector who was also an HVAC person, they would take all HVAC courses for their renewal and the legal SOP. Well, you're not really expanding your knowledge. You're just punching a clock and trying to get that done.
And how often is the reporting period?
The
reporting period, the renewal licensing.
Oh, every 2 years. Yeah,
But
just
the
same with agents and brokers.
So it's a 2-year window. Okay. In those continuing education, are there any requirements with respect to highlighting independence and objectivity with respect to, you mentioned the relationships with brokers and possibly crossing over the line when brokers may have a favorite inspector to go to, right? Because they're easy, quote unquote easy.
Sure.
Do you all address any of those issues in the continuing education?
That's part of the legal SOP course. Ethics is a component of that we look at. We do a lot of case studies that are there. When we're creating that course every 2 years, we go through and kind of look at enforcement actions that have happened over the last couple of years. We look at feedback that we've got from stakeholders, whether it be agents, brokers, or inspectors, and we kind of modify the ethics area to kind of address a lot of that. The ethics, and this is the third version of it, it has been completely different from one section to the next because we want to hit on some of those big topics all too well. There is unfortunately, in our industry, there does get a lot of comfortability, and some of it is for good reasons, some of it not so much. So we try to stress what the ethics are and push the ethical components of what the SOPs are, and hopefully it sticks.
Right. You know, one of the enforcement cases that's going to be in the agenda later on today deals with the report that was, you know, deficient, right? And so is there a peer review feature to the licensing of where you're required to be peer reviewed to ensure that your reports that you're issuing, inspection reports, are in compliance with those standards?
I would love to see, I would love nothing more than to see that, because in my position, I didn't realize how many interesting differences in the reports were out there until I got on this committee, 13 years ago. Right. And once I did, I started getting, people send me reports all the time. And I see a lot of variation in those. The problem that we run into with some of the more colorful ways to do these reports is TREC is not an enforcement agency. They don't go out and find those. People have to actually file the complaint. Right. And I think many times they very well should. Sometimes it's an educational issue. And I'll give that inspector the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, you really should fix this. And sometimes they're grateful, they don't understand because they may not have been trained. But there is, unfortunately, as with any industry and our other license holders at this commission, there's always going to be people that just aren't going to follow the rules. So I would love to see a peer review. I just don't know if that's something we can actually mandate.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda will be General Counsel Abby Lee giving us the report from the Broker Lawyer Committee.
Good morning. Agenda item 14 is the report by the Texas Real Estate Broker Lawyer Committee. I am here delivering the report on behalf of the co-chairs Ron Walker and John George. The Broker Lawyer Committee has met twice since you last met, once on June 13th and again on July 11th. This schedule allowed them to review and discuss legislation that may have an impact on contract forms, including SB 1968, the TREC housekeeping bill. This conversation on that bill included consideration of whether the committee should draft the written buyer agreement required by the bill. Ultimately, the committee decided not to create such a form at this time, but will continue these discussions. You will see the committee's recommendations later on in the agenda. It's agenda items 39 and 40, including recommendations based on the recent Limited Scope Sunset Advisory Commission report that was issued last year. The next meeting for the Broker Lawyer Committee is on October 10th. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next report will be from, looks like from me, on the Executive Committee, that we actually met twice and since the last meeting. And the, I won't read you the whole minutes, but we did talk about the fact that our new portal will be called Realm now. And so it's got a name, for something to be real, it's got to have a name. And that also, I think people are aware of this, but, the launch will be delayed to make sure we can get the implementation correct. And let's see. Oh, and another thing was that we talked about creating a working group potentially for to look at private listing networks. And this is something we've done in the past. On kind of hot topic areas that has, given us insight. And that's, we'll go out and ask different people to come perhaps and talk to us about it. So those are probably the biggest things in those reports. The next one up, of course, is also me, which is the Budget Committee. And, we have a series of meetings on this, to, look at the 26, 27 budget, 26 primarily, and Chief Financial Officer Renata Williams is, instrumental in, providing that information. And I think the takeaway, which we'll talk about a little more here, but is that, TREC is on a path where we really need a fee increase, and continue to be viable financially, not by statute, but after probably 2027. And we have, gone to the governor's office to get a blessing on that. And as of yet, we've not heard. I think it's another thing that's kind of victim of special sessions and legislative session, et cetera. So, that's really the big thing. We're seeing, of course, fewer licensees coming into the business, which is not surprising, but that does impact our fees, and so that's a revenue stream is not going to continue to have the benefit of what we had the last, we'll call it during 2020, 21, 22. Actually, we've seen fewer licensees in 23, 24, and now for 25. So those are, concerns, but we believe that, we're hopeful we'll, get that approved. Otherwise, when you get into the out years, we'll have to make some draconian reductions of some sort, which we're, of course, not wanting to do. At the same time, we have taken an opportunity to relook at expenses, positions, staff positions, and some of those are being reduced where we can. And, we expect to continue to run more efficient. And I think in the out years with the realm system, we'll see some efficiencies develop, out in, a year or two. But right now, that's taking additional funds to, of course, get it up and running. And you can always count on that. And, of course, probably a few more before we're, done with that project. But having said all that, we're, 2026, we're good to go. We're going to be looking at that at a later point in the agenda. So any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, I'll gladly move right along. So we have, now we have the report from TREC and TALCB joint audit. Commissioner Penny?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Joint Audit Committee met on July the 21st, myself and Board Member Chance Bolton with TALCB, as well as Commissioner Goodwin met to discuss the several items on the agenda, actually, and also staff and council were with us. We discussed the prior audit findings follow-up, which consisted of some of the lingering items that we still need to address. And for the most part, everything's been addressed. Just one minor detail that we need to test our disaster recovery plan. So that's in the process as well. We also discussed our FY 2025 audit report, which will be discussed in agenda item number 45 as well. It's the finalization of our internal audit for the year FY 2025. And we also discussed the FY 2026 audit plan, where we identified the risk areas that we thought were important that would merit consideration for audit in the current period for this coming year. And that will be discussed in agenda item 46 as well. And a little bit of housekeeping as well. We approved our internal audit charter for the year, which is an annual process. The audit committee has to look at that and ensure, for the most part, it is standard verbiage with internal audit standards and compliance and independence rules. And so we looked at that. No changes were made. In fact, we adopted the same copy that we had last year for our internal audit charter. And we did that and everything went well.
So we're going to move to items 45 through 47 on your agenda as they deal with the same topic. And so I believe we have a presentation today for us on item 45 from Ms. Liz Myers of McConnell Jones.
Good morning. How are you?
Tell us all about it. Thank you. Good morning again.
Morning.
You're back.
Thanks. So if we can go to the next slide, please. The areas I am going to be covering today is the follow-up on the open internal audit findings, as Commissioner Pena mentioned, the internal audit charter, the FY 2025 internal audit report, the internal audit annual independence disclosure statement, and then the FY 26 internal audit plan that's been proposed. So next slide, please. Okay, so with regards to the follow-up items, we can go next slide, please. So as Commissioner Pena mentioned, the TREC has done a great job. They have addressed 11 of the open findings that we had. And when it says fully addressed, it means we've actually reviewed what the changes they have made to make sure it addresses the risk we identified during the internal audit. And then the one that is still in progress, and that is with regards to, the next slide, please, the business continuity testing plan. And the target completion date for that is October 31st, 2025. With regards to those that have been fully addressed, with the interest of time, would you like me to move forward to the next topic, or would you like me to review each of those items?
We can move on.
Move forward? Great. So if we can go to slide 12, please. Okay. No, slide 12. Sorry, for me. Let's keep going down, 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 down. There we go. So if we go to the next one. So with regards to the internal audit charter, so the Institute of Internal Audits, whose standards that we actually follow as internal auditors, require that the charter be reviewed annually by the commission. And what it does is it's a formal document to establish internal audit's purpose within TREC, our authority, responsibility, and position within the organization. And the objective of the charter is to provide TREC a blueprint for how internal audit will operate and helps the commission affirm the value it places on the internal audit's independence. No changes have made, and it was approved. Thank you. So with the next slide, it's the annual internal audit report. And this report is required to be submitted to the Governor's Office for Planning Policy, the Legislative Budget Board, and also the State Auditor's Office. It's required by the Texas Internal Auditing Act and is submitted on your behalf. So what it covers is the mandated contents, or the validation that TREC's internal audit reports are made public on its website, the status of the FY25 annual internal audit plan, and the my McConnell-Jones peer review outcome, the FY26 annual internal audit plan, the annual external audit services procured by TREC during FY25, and TREC's policies for reporting suspected fraud and abuse. And this is to be issued or submitted no later than November 1st of each year. Okay. The next one is the annual independence disclosure statement. This statement basically documents the independence of our internal audit function with the purpose of providing transparency and assurance that audits are conducted objectively and without any undue influence that could compromise the integrity of the process. If any impairments should arise, we, the Chief Audit Executive, or any internal audit team member, in fact or appearance, it must be disclosed to the commissioners and the executive director. And there were no independent issues to disclose during FY25. The action item for this was for the independence form to be accepted and signed off by the audit committee, which Commissioner Pena did take care of for us. So the next one is the proposed internal audit plan for FY26. So for this one, the first would be the enforcement's complaint investigations. We would review this with a focus on enforcement, investigation, and abatements. Then the second audit would be on payroll, with the focus on overtime, compensation time, and the classification of discretionary payments. And as always, we follow up on the open findings for the audits conducted during this fiscal 2025, and also the FY24 item that is remaining open currently. We will also perform the annual risk assessment. And then the next slide, as always, we will do the annual internal audit report and attend any internal, external communications between the commission and board members. So with all of that, total of 302 hours. And I am requesting your approval for this proposed FY26 internal audit plan. And that's the end of my report, unless you have any questions for me.
Questions? Okay, how about a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, we'll have actually three separate items that we have to approve. The first one would be the FY, I know she presented them kind of all in there, but the FY 2025 audit report, agenda item number 45. I motion to approve the audit report.
Thank you. Yes, that's, you have a second for that. You're making a motion to approve that. Second, okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item I'd like to make a motion to approve is the FY 2026 audit plan, agenda item number 46.
Okay. Second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the final I'd like to make a motion to approve is the internal audit charter item, agenda item number 47.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move back to reports
item
by,
18.
let's see, did I miss one? No, you did the enforcement report, okay. Did you? Did you do enforcement?
hasn't done it
No, you haven't. Okay, so would you give us the enforcement report?
Sure.
Commissioner Pena.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
the Enforcement Committee met on June 17th with Commissioner Renee Harvey-Lowe attending, Commissioner Stuart Benson, and myself, staff and council. The committee met to consider motion for rehearing on the matter of hearing number 245684, TREC versus Marie Gilbert, and the committee voted to deny the motion for rehearing. And then this committee really meets on an as-needed basis, and so we don't have any meetings scheduled at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to jump into our director reports at this point. So Executive Director Buckholz, would you lead us off?
Absolutely. Good morning, Chelsea Buckholz, Executive Director. It's good to be with y'all this morning. Welcome to our new commissioners. We're grateful that you said yes to this appointment. Commissioner Goodwin and Commissioner Davis, we look forward to knowing you and working with you. And you just let me know how I can be helpful and our team can be helpful to you as you settle in. And Chairman Woodruff, I look forward to your chairmanship. We've had a couple of months to get our sea legs, and I'm grateful for your leadership. So this is an exciting day with a new team. First, I have to say thank you to S.J. Swanson and Amy Slusher, and also Lee York, who could not be with us this morning, for their long years, 12 years each, serving on the Broker Lawyer Committee. That work is tireless. Those meetings are long. It is not easy, perfunctory work. It's the work of someone who rolls up their sleeves. They must be thoughtful. These are intense meetings, often lasting all day. And also with a bit of an audience, which I think is a hard way to work sometimes. But I'm grateful for the commitment of SJ and Amy and Lee and what they offered to this group and their substantive contributions to the work during a really pivotal time in the Broker Lawyer Committee. So thanks to each of you. Chairman, you mentioned the Realm portal. This is the name we have attached to our new license management database. We've previously referred to it as all sorts of things, probably RAMP or sometimes by the vendor who is helping us implement Acela, but we are working hard to call it the Realm portal and to get that into our brains. We use social media, a survey, a polling tool on our email newsletters, and gave people a couple of weeks to vote on a name. And the results were close, but the Real Estate and Appraiser License Management, Realm, portal won out among many of those who responded. So you'll hear us refer to it as the Realm portal. How many times have I said that? I think maybe now it's in my head. So speaking of the Realm portal, we have delayed, as the chairman mentioned, our rollout of this new system. And I believe this is the first time we've really said that publicly today. We remain, of course, open for business. Our historic database is holding all of our information. We continue as we always have. But we did anticipate completion and a go-live happening later this month, but have delayed that. Then the events that are occurring right now, as we speak, are informing the answer to the obvious question of when will we go live? We are currently testing a small mock conversion to determine its success, to then determine next steps. Data conversion and also integration are our current challenges. So data conversion is moving all of the records from one system to the new. And we do test runs of that. And then when we apply it to that new system and see if it works as it should, see what the glitches are, go back to the drawing board where necessary. And then also integration with external systems. How does this new system talk to DPS for purposes of fingerprints? How do we receive examination results into the new system? Things like that. So those are our current challenges and what we're working on right now. I'll let you know as I have concrete information, but I expect to go live. I'm hopeful for a go live later this year. Later today in our workshop, you'll get a first look at this system. So I'm excited to show it to you. Also later today, we will have an overview of our progress for implementation on the most recent legislative session. So this will include changes to our housekeeping bill, or changes from our housekeeping bill, inclusion of condo associations into what we collect on our HOA website, and changes to license holders with ties to the military, and many other updates. So we'll give you those implementation updates in the workshop this afternoon. We have a very long agenda. Sometimes I talk for much longer, but I'm going to just leave it at that and answer any questions you have.
I just have a comment. Mr. Chairman, maybe for the November commission meeting, we can have a workshop on the implementation of the Realm launch. I think this is a big undertaking, right? And just kind of brief us on how the plan is going to be executed and kind of give us an overall.
Sure.
Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Director Hood, would you, please give us the Customer Relations Division report?
Sure. Good morning, Commissioner Woodruff and Commissioners. My name is Robert Hood. I'm the Director of the Customer Relations Division. And just a little bit about my division. We serve as the centralized customer service hub for the agency. We assist Texas consumers, license holders, and applicants through phone, email, and in-person interactions. Our team is fully staffed with 28 dedicated employees. Today, I'm pleased to present on the current status of our division. On page 25 in your meeting materials, you'll find the June 2025 report for the division. The average wait time for our phones in June was 1 minute and 28 seconds, which was well within our goal of keeping customer wait times under 2 minutes. For the majority of the days in June, we were able to keep the average wait time to less than 2 minutes. There were 7 days in June in which our hold time exceeded our 2-minute mark. The contact center handled 13,868 calls with 14 customer service representatives handling phone calls and emails. 94% of those calls were TREC related and 6% were calls related to the board. Last month in July, we continued with the same strong performance and handled 15,000 calls and an average wait time of 1 minute and 28 seconds. In June, we also welcomed 3 new employees to our team. These new employees, they went through training the whole month of June, and in July, they started to take phone calls for us with an immediate impact to our service levels. Their assistance in July, we were able to handle 15,000 calls with a hold time of 1 minute and 30 seconds in July. On page 26 in your meeting materials, this is a 13-month comparison of call volume and wait times. Over this 13-month period, we consistently met our 2-minute goal, with the exception of December 2024 and January of 2025, when the agency experienced some power outages and holiday closures. On average, we handle about 14,000 calls per month, with an average hold time of about 1 minute and 38 seconds. On page 27, this highlights our email performance over the past 13 months. We process about 2,500 emails each month, and our emails are all responded to within 1 business day of receiving them. In June, we handled 2,632 emails. Finally, on page 28, this provides a fiscal year to date comparison. We're nearing the end of fiscal year 2025, and we are averaging about 14,200 calls per month, with our wait time this fiscal year has been 1 minute and 38 seconds. In closing, I would like to thank you for your continued support of the Customer Relations Division, and I welcome any questions you may have about our performance and our strategies.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What qualifies as hold time? When I call in and I get the recording, it takes about 1.5 minutes to listen to. If I select one of the, like, number 2 to go to wherever number 2 takes you, is that when hold time starts? Or
Yes, sir.
kind of explain that to me. I'm sorry, being new, I just don't understand that report.
Oh, no, happy to answer. When you call in to our main line, you're presented with different options, and you choose the option which best reflects your question. And once you enter into that queue for that particular question, that's when the wait time starts.
Okay.
And then once you're in that queue, if that hold time is already over 2 minutes, you'll be prompted with a courtesy callback feature. And that way you can put in your telephone number and the system will call you back. You'll keep your place in line and the system will call you back if needed. But that's only prompted after 2 minutes.
Have you had any problems with that system? Because when I called in last week, I did it a couple of times and I never got the ability, it never offered me that option to say, okay, quit holding and we'll call you back.
Yeah, and
It just repeated the previous recording.
Yes, once you select that option, the option for the courtesy callback will not go into play unless the average hold time for the day is already over 2 minutes. So if the average hold time is over 2 minutes already, you enter that queue, it'll give you the option to enter into the courtesy callback feature.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? I'll just say that those are amazing numbers, and both the email, the callbacks, and I suspect that later in the year with launch of Realm, those may even increase those numbers. Would be my guess, but in any event, those are really amazing numbers given the volume that you're looking at. So thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
have one other question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. In those calls, do you categorize those calls by the type, whatever? I mean, that's a tremendous number of calls. Are 90% of them regarding licensing or inspections, or?
The majority of the calls we receive are checking on the status of their license or for password resets. If they haven't logged in 2 years, they need to reset their login and password, or they'll call in and just checking the status of their application.
Has there been any conversation about possibly using some kind of chat bot to address the lion's share of those calls?
Yes, we have been. It has been discussed in the past. I think we're trying to get through our implementation of Realm, and then we'll revisit that again for about a chat feature.
And currently, are you using any kind of ticketing system if more than one department has to address one of those calls, so they'll know who, like a Zendesk type ticketing system is?
Currently, we are not, no.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
When you say password reset, people can't do that online themselves? They have to call in to do it?
If they do not have access to their previous email account, then they'll have to call in and we can reset everything for them.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Director Wheeler, who will be giving us the Director of Education and Examination Services report.
Good morning again.
Thank you.
For the benefit of the new commissioners, I'd like to begin by providing a high-level overview of who we are and the work we do in the Education and Exam Division. As you know, all sales agents, brokers, inspectors, easement and right-of-way applicants are required to complete pre-licensing and continuing education once licensed. The Education and Exams Division reviews applications for pre-licensing and continuing education providers and the courses themselves to ensure statutory and agency standards are met. Division team members support the agency's mission to protect consumers of real estate services in Texas by ensuring that content for qualifying courses and continuing education courses are both accurate and relevant, and that courses satisfy requirements for adult learning, design, and delivery methodologies. We have a compliance arm that regularly audits education providers to ensure their administrative functions and advertising comply with commission rules. We also work closely with members of the executive division in the administration of the non-elective courses such as Legal Update 1 and 2, Broker Responsibility, and the Inspector Legal Ethics SOP course. I'll move on to reports. Our June division reports begin on page 29 of your materials, and we'll give you a glimpse into the work that we do. The first page of the report reflects the volume of qualifying or pre-licensing provider and course applications we received and approved month by month going back to the beginning of the fiscal year. The second page shows the same information for continuing education providers and courses. On average, we process 22 qualifying courses each month and 267 continuing education courses. The next page of the report is a 13-month comparison of each application type approved. You can see that our peak was in March with 498 applications processed, and the lowest coming in August with 217 applications. The next page is a 5-year look back of applications approved, with 2025 information being fiscal year to date. With 2 more months of data to collect to close out the fiscal year, we are projected to be pretty consistent with the previous year, which has been kind of a steady incline that we've been watching. There are 2 more pages to the education reports. The next one is a representation of all applications combined, going back 4 fiscal years, with the 2025 represented as fiscal year to date. Again, demonstrating that we are remaining consistent with the previous fiscal year. The last page represents a 13-month comparison of the volume of calls and emails received directly within our division. And this concludes my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, excuse me, Director of Licensing, Denise Sample.
Good morning again, Chair Woodruff and Commissioners. I'm Denise Sample, Director of Licensing. And to give an overview for our new commissioners, the Licensing Division is made up of 20 staff members, and our role is to safeguard the public interest and protect consumers of real estate services by ensuring that license holders meet the minimum education, experience, and examination requirements before a license or registration is issued. And this includes sales agents, brokers, both individual and business entities, inspectors, and easement or right-of-way registrants. So the first report begins on page 35 of your materials. This is a fiscal year comparison of initial applications received. That top left graph provides a year-over-year comparison with fiscal year, these are full fiscal years, so you'll see it goes to fiscal year 2024. And it goes back 5 years. The raw number of total initial applications across all license types is represented by the blue bar with the total at the top, and the black dotted line indicates the percentage of change over the previous fiscal year. So you'll see we ended fiscal year 2024 with 8% fewer total applications than fiscal year 2023. The remaining graphs on this page show the initial applications received by license type, and these are fiscal year-to-date comparisons to the previous fiscal year. So you'll see brokers, business entities, and individuals on the top right, then the 3 inspector license types on the bottom left, and sales agents in the bottom right. The next page covers easement and right-of-way registrant applications, and then the new business entity registrations that we're capturing. If you recall, those are the registration of business entities that are exempt from licensure requirements because they exist just to for an agent or individual broker, in some cases, to be paid through an LLC. The next set of reports is the renewal activity, and these are broken down by license type. This is a fiscal year comparison, and each graph includes the raw number of renewal applications at the top of the bar and below the percentage of those who renewed out of those who were eligible to renew. So we have been seeing a drop in the number of initial applications that are received in the previous reports, but we're continuing to see that the raw renewal numbers are higher and the renewal rates remain steady. And this is the pattern we've been in for most of this fiscal year. And as another note, the renewal rate and the renewal numbers are tied to revenue, what we expect to collect. And I am definitely not the person to talk about that topic, but Ms. Williams can go into more detail. She can explain that a little further. But the next report is a 13-month comparison of the total license holders and registrants. These are broken down by license type, and you'll see broken out underneath each license type is the number of active business entity brokers, for example, under brokers, and active individual brokers. This is a request made several years ago by the Commission to separate and indicate how many out of each of those license types are active. So you'll see we ended June with just over 238,000 total license holders. This is a 0.06% decrease over the previous month. When comparing it to June of 2024, it's a 0.66% decrease, or about 1,500 total license holders. We anticipate to end this fiscal year with a slight decrease in the total number of license holders and registrants, and that'll be the first time that we don't have a new peak since 2008. We do anticipate, based on the numbers, because the decrease is pretty nominal, it shouldn't be as sharp of a decrease as it was from 2007 to 2008. And those numbers will be included in the November meeting, where we do a year-end comparison and a longer-term look back. So the next page is a graphical presentation broken down by license type of the license holder counts. It's a similar 13-month comparison. And then the last report on the next page is our application processing time. We have a average number of calendar days to process an initial application goal of 14 calendar days. And so you'll see on the right-hand side for June, we're well within that metric. And just as to offer more detail, this does not include the amount of time it takes the applicant to get fingerprinted or to sit for the exam. This is counting up the time from when documents or an application is received with our division and how long it takes to review and provide a response back. Sometimes we can go back and forth half a dozen times on the same application, and so that's taken into account in this average. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
When you say that it's taken into account, if I filed a sales agent application and it wasn't complete, and you came back and said, well, you need to do box 9 and box 12, then I fill out 9 and 12. Are those counted as two separate applications and processes, or do you go back to the original date?
It's the same application, and it's triggered by that application date, but if you picture it like a stopwatch. So we start the clock when we receive documents to review. We stop it once we provide a response. For example, you still need law of agency. And then when we get that course certificate submitted, start the clock again, and it runs until we provide generally, a response of you still need one more thing, or you are now cleared to sit for the exam. And then that would stop the clock.
Also, what percentage of the applications do you receive that are incomplete, where you have to go back to them and request additional information? Is it?
Oh, gosh. I don't have data like that, but I can tell you that I can just say anecdotally, it would be rare to get one that's got everything we need and it's ready to go upon first review.
Really?
Yeah, it might help to know as well that the applications are open for 1 year because the expectation isn't that an applicant arrives and they've completed everything. So that year gives them time to meet all of those requirements for the license. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Director of Enforcement, Mike Malloy.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners. Mike Malloy, Director of Enforcement. Before getting into my reports, just going to give you a background about the Enforcement Division, since we have some new commissioners today. So we handle all the investigations and the enforcement actions for all consumer-related complaints for all the license holders that we regulate, and including unlicensed activity as well. We also review all the applications and current license holders that have background history-related issues. So in part of the complaint process is we file a scripted, process. At first, when someone files a complaint, we do a jurisdictional review to make sure that we have the authority to investigate the matter. If we do, then we'll open the investigation and proceed that way. If we don't, then we'll summarily need to dismiss that matter because it's not within our purview to review. Once we open and investigate it, our staff attorneys will review the matter and see if we've met our burden of proof to see if there is a violation of the License Act. If there is, we have several methods to dispose of those cases. One would be our agreed orders or the final orders, which are you guys receive on a regular basis by email. The agreed orders would be ones that we mutually decide to figure out a reasonable settlement on the matter, and the license holder will sign the agreed order admitting to the punishment. The other ones would be final orders, where we would send a notice of alleged violation and there's no answer from that license holder or unlicensed individual, and it results in a default judgment. The other method what we have is it's a very small number of cases. It goes to the State Office of Administrative Hearing, or SOA. When we go through our case analysis, we often make that any case could possibly go to a SOA hearing. So we make sure that we can meet our burden of proof, and we actually have 5 of those cases today. So we'll be reviewing those cases, and that's also another way that we dispose of cases. We have what we call our advertising compliance program. So if someone gets has some issues with their advertising, and a complaint is filed, we're going to give people the opportunity to clean up their advertising and not necessarily penalize them. If they do it within a certain prescribed period of time, then we'll dismiss the case as mattered settled. If they don't, then we'll need to proceed, similarity with, our regular type of course of actions. So over the past fiscal year, we opened 5,999 cases. We closed 6,169 cases with an average resolution time of 92 days, which is a significant improvement from the past few years. So moving on to my reports, which is on page 41, which is the case status report. The volume of brokers and sales agent cases has continued to increase. As of June of 2025, we received 15% more of this case type versus the same time this period in 2024. Overall, the case openings have remained consistent with the average pace observed throughout the past year, but the increase with the broker sales agent complaints, but there's also a decrease in the applications and the fitness determination categories, so it kind of equals themselves out when we probably be going into the end of the fiscal year. Moving on to the case aging report. The report indicates that 99% of our cases are within under 1 year old. Cases within a 0 to 6 month range stand at 94%, and the division has maintained 90% or above for the past 2 years. The 6 cases that are reflected between the 12 to 24 month range have either been since closed, awaiting to be heard today by the commission, or currently pending at SOA. As of July of 2025, the average time to resolve a consumer complaint is 79 days. So moving on to my next report, which is the complaint subject matter report. There have been no significant changes since the last time I gave this report, and the top 3 categories have steadily remained: sales other, licensure issues, and breach of fiduciary duties. This concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned that when you take cases, you have to think it may go to SOA. Can you repeat what you said real quick about that?
So when we investigate a case and take it through, when we take that analysis, we need to make sure that we have our burden of proof before we, do our trial plan in order to take a matter to SOA.
Why are we so scared of SOA? So it goes to SOA, then it comes back up for us, and we get to make the decision.
Well, in some cases, this body has some limitations and some decisions making, but it is limited based on the law. The ALJ does have a lot of authority. We need to make sure when we take a case there, we're very confident that we're going to get the result that we need.
What do you mean it's limited? Because when we come back and we see the case, we can say whether we want to accept what the ALJ said or if we want to change it.
So you have to make a determination of what's contained in the record, that there's enough within that record in order to change that PFD. And there's been case law set out there where agencies have gotten in trouble going a little too further and have had their decisions overturned at district court.
And I think I might frame it differently than being scared of SOA as much as wanting to make sure that the cases we investigate are fully prepared as if we're going to SOA should we need to do so. Because you don't know how the case will end when you're investigating it and making decisions on the front end. So it needs to be ready for SOA in case it goes to SOA. But SOA is just part of the process where there's no feelings around it.
Yeah, but it's trial, and we need to be prepared because the ALJs are not going to give us any deference because we're a state agency, and they commonly give deference to pro se people. So,
Excuse me, other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Director of IT, Tom Watson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Tom Watson, Director of Information Technology. The Information Technology team comprises of 3 different groups. One is a team that manages and oversees electronic documents, does all the scanning for inbound applications and documents that support applications, et cetera. Second group is a group of individuals that review, oversee, and are responsible for not only application security, but data security as well. So it's the security arm of the agency in terms of electronic data. They also have oversight of network and server management and deployment. And finally, we have the application team, which is responsible for the deployment and management and configuration support of all IT or all agency software applications. On page 45, this particular report here is intended to show utilization of online applications that we offer as a service so that we can encourage individuals to submit and pay for applications through electronic means rather than mailing them in. What we see here on the middle section is the online transactions for initial applications. We do see a slight drip if we compare year-to-date last year to this year of about 2%. It's a watch item for me. I don't believe it to be a trend, but it does show a decrease of about 2% versus last year at this time. Renewals, however, are some of the bigger in terms of volume, and we're showing very consistent and stable usage of our renewal applications that we offer online. A peek forward a little bit, this report here is going to change once we get Realm rolled out. Within Realm, we're going to be offering, I believe, every single application we have online. So these numbers are going to be a lot more reflective, I think, of the transactions that we engage with for the outside public or our license holder base. So that'll be interesting to see and monitor as we go forward. Then on page 46 is really just the trending of the same numbers on the prior page. It shows kind of a yearly trend of both the initial applications and the renewal transactions that for those that participated online. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Tom, just looking forward with Realm, because it's mind-blowing to me that 1 in 5 people are filling out paper still. It's 2025. Are we going to offer paper application once Realm launches?
Yes. We're not going to encourage it, but we have to offer it as a means for those people that don't have ready access to internet or prefer not to pay through. There is a segment of the population out there that are still skeptical of online payment transactions or had poor experiences in the past, so they prefer to stick with traditional means.
We are going to use all means necessary to reduce that to the bare minimum, like count on one hand kind of numbers.
Gotcha.
So I mean, we would prefer to invite someone into the office to show them how to do it online. We will stand on our head to help people do it online.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Chief Financial Officer Renata Williams. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Woodruff, Commissioners, and everyone in the audience. I'm Renata Williams, your Chief Financial Officer and Director of Financial Services Division. Within the Financial Services Division, my team of 13 and I are responsible for all revenue, expenditures, investment recommendations, payment of invoices to vendors, travel, agency procurement, contracting, auditing, financial reporting, asset management, and facilities management. Today, I will be presenting the June 2025 monthly financial report and our quarterly investment report. Starting on page 47, we have the executive financial summary. Here you will see we've collected $11.3 million in revenue, which was 81.8% of our total revenue projections. That's slightly below our target of 83.3% by the end of June, or 10 months into the fiscal year. We've spent approximately $15.1 million, which is 71.2% of our expenditures. And again, we're slightly below our target of 83.3% at the end of 10 months into the fiscal year. So looking here at our year-to-date revenue and expenditures, we have an operating loss of $3.7 million, since our expenditures are slightly more than our collected revenue. And also, I'd like to just point out on the graph, you'll see that our license fees make up 90% of our revenue. So any deviation in our license applications that we receive has the potential to affect our revenue greatly. Next, on page 48, It's just notes about the previous page, basically saying what I just said about we're under our target. The target was 83%, and we're slightly below that. On page 49, it's our year-over-year comparison, which shows our revenue and expenditures in the current year, 2025, and what those amounts were for in 2024 during the same period. And as you can see here, we can expect to see higher expenditures throughout the fiscal year of 2025 as we continue on with our Realm portal. Moving on to page 50. This is our RAM portal budget update. I think I still have RAMP at the top because I had not gotten used to the new name yet. And this report is just to kind of give a little more clarity and transparency into what we're spending towards this project. From the very beginning, I think in 2021, going all the way through what we're projecting through 2027. So this is just additional detail here for the RAMP project. And as you can see, we have 5.4 in budgeted expenditures for the project. We have recognized a total of 3.1 million in expenditures, and we have 2.3 million to be paid for remaining deliverables. This is a multi-year capital expenditure project, and we anticipate having expenditures related to this initial contract, which includes the implementation and some post-go-live production costs through August 31st of 2027. And just a little side note, this project is still on target to be within budget.
Renata?
Yes, sir.
On there's item 4 and 5 in the FY 2025 coded to 2001 professional service fees and services. Under GASB 51, I believe independent verification and validation are capitalizable expenses.
Yes.
You may want to look into that and see, because ultimately when there's a conversion of fund financial statements to government-wide, that's how those would get picked up. And then you might have a shortage in capitalizable expenses with respect to the overall. I mean, those are development software costs that are capitalizable under the GASB.
And I will send you some communication that we've had from our financial reporting financial reporting analyst at the comptroller's office that has given us alternative direction on that. So that's why it's coded the way that it is. But I'll share that communication with you. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Thank you. No problem.
Okay.
All right. So moving on, going to our quarterly investment report. Next page, please. All right. This report is in a different format than what you all may be used to seeing. The requirement is that no less than quarterly, we provide a report of our investment activity to our governing body. Since our fiscal year starts in September, our quarters end November, February, May, and August. So the date on the quarterly investment report is going to be as of May 31st, 2025. Starting on page 53 is our consolidated portfolio summary. This report shows our consolidated balances for all funds managed by TREC. This includes the TREC Operating Fund 3055, our Real Estate Recovery Fund 3058, the Inspector Recovery Fund 3059. It also includes the beginning market value of the total investments, which was 18.4 million. We had additions of 7 million, interest of 92,000, a realized gain of 108,000, which is basically a profit that we made when the asset matured and for more than what we paid for it. An unrealized gain of 45,000, also just known as a paper gain, which means that we haven't actually, collected that yet. It's increased in value and more than what we paid for it. Distributions of 7.9 million and an ending market value of 17.7 million for our total investments. At the bottom of those pages, you'll also see two charts. One side shows, on the left side, it shows the security type. So whether it was cash or fixed income, which is our U.S. Treasury notes. And cash is, or cash equivalents are repo agreements that we have, our overnight repo agreements. On the right side is the fund type. So whether it was the TREC Operating Fund, the Real Estate Recovery Fund, or the Inspector Recovery Fund. On the next page, please. You'll see the detail for Fund 3055. Again, it's going to have all the same components as the consolidated summary. So beginning market value, any activity such as additions, distributions, realized gain, and our ending market value, which was $12.9 million. We had $5.1 million in reserves, which is 3 months of our budgeted expenditures, and an ending balance of $7.8 million. 82% of the TREC operating fund are in U.S. Treasury notes, 18% are in cash or the cash equivalents. On page 55, it's the detail for Fund 3058. Beginning market value of $4.2 million. All the activity that we recognize, so additions, distributions, realized gains, unrealized gains, and our ending market value of $4.3 million. We had $835,000 in reserve for potential payments within 90 days and an ending balance of $3.5 million. Excuse me. Just a reminder that the $835,000 that we have here for reserves are our pending recovery fund payments. So anytime a person submits a claim, once we get that information, General Counsel keeps track of it, and we make sure that we reserve the potential amount that we might have to pay for that claim so that it's always available and on hand. So that's what that $835,000 is. All right. And lastly, on page 55 is the detail for the Inspector Recovery Fund, 3059. Beginning market value, $483,708.15. All activity that we recognized during the reporting period, and our ending market value of $487,384.64. We had $12,500 in reserves for potential payments within the next 90 days, an ending balance of $474,884.64. 87% of the Inspector Recovery Fund are in U.S. Treasury notes, 13% are in cash or cash equivalents. And again, that $12,500 was again for a pending Inspector Recovery claim that we had at the time. Next page, please, is our holdings by allocation and fund quarterly report. This report provides such detail as our security ID, the interest rate, the S&P rating, the settlement date or the date that we actually purchased, the security, the purchase price, book value, market value, maturity, all of the good stuff, days to maturity and yield to maturity. The YTM is an annualized rate of return, and there's an inverse relationship here with the price. And so this is just general information in case you wanted to see that. On page 59, please. We also included the monthly report of June, just to give you additional information. We're going to continue to provide it on a quarterly basis, but since my staff do present this to me on a monthly basis, I wanted to provide it to you since we had it. So on page 59 here, you'll see our monthly investment report for the activity for June. It depicts our ending balance in each of the portfolios. So in TREC operating account 3055, the total account balance was $12.8 million. We had 5.1 in operating reserves, which left $7.7 million available for fund balance. On page 60, the real estate recovery account 3058, we had 4.4 million as our total account balance, 835,000 reserved for potential payments within 90 days, and that left 3.5 million as the ending balance. Finally, on page 61 is account 3059, the real estate inspector recovery account. This account had a total balance of $496,367.84. We still had that $12,500 reserved for a potential payment that was due within 90 days, and that left us an ending balance of $483,867.84. This concludes the Financial Services Division report. Are there any questions?
Nice work.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, ditto. That's okay. Last director report is Summer Mandel, Government and Strategic Communications.
Hello. All right, well, good morning, Chair Woodruff and Commissioners. Welcome to our new appointees. It's really nice to have you here. As Chair Woodruff said, my name is Summer Mandel. I'm the Director of Communications, or my official title is Government and Strategic Communications. I'll be providing you with an update in my government relations role later this afternoon during the workshop. Right now, though, I'm here in my communications director capacity. So I'll be sharing some of the work that I've done with Sierra Pizarro with the camera. She's our communications specialist, and we are the communications department. So just for a little background on who we are for the new folks, and those in the audience, we are on a mission to create clear, useful, trustworthy information for our license holders and the public. And we help our coworkers with their communications things. That could be speeches, PowerPoint presentations, little articles, anything. We also work to maintain the agency's brand standards. So that's part of our goal. And we work on courses like broker responsibility and legal update course. And we really just want to make it easy for people to find the information that they're looking for, whether that's online, on our website, social media, courses, you name it. So in addition to these media, we have 4 e-newsletters. Some open rates are listed up there. We've got TREC Advisor, Inspector Insight, Education Connection, and then the TALCB Bulletin, which is the Texas Appraiser Licensing and Certification Board. They're an independent subdivision of the commission of TREC. So highlighted here are those open rates for the newsletters that we sent since our last commission meeting, and before July 15th, that's when I pulled this data. So the open rate is the percentage of people who received the email who actually opened it. And the click-through rate is the percent of people who opened it that clicked on something. I just want to note that sometimes there aren't a lot of things to click on. So when you see a 1% click-through rate, that's not really the worst thing in the world, because there may not be a link to click. It might just have some information already in there. According to benchmarking data, our open rates and click-through rates remain above industry standards. So data from MailChimp, which is a big email marketing platform, show that the highest average email open rate for government-related emails is 40.55%. And across all industries, it's 35.63%. Our own email marketing platform, Constant Contact, provides benchmarking data for us too. And according to it, our overall open rate is 4% higher than industry average at 46%. Like in my last report, we did some A/B testing with TREC Advisor. So essentially, we just come up with 2 different subject lines, and there's an A group that 20% goes to, and a B group that 20% of the recipients receive. And then we say how long we want it to send those emails. So it could be an hour, it could be overnight. For this particular one, it was a pretty short turnaround. I want to say I did like an hour because I was just trying to get it out there. So you can see that the open rate percentages are super close. So moving forward, I want to test some longer periods of time because I think that'll provide us with some more interesting data. So as Executive Director Buckholtz mentioned, we have a high level of interest in the Realm portal rollout. And so we're working on communications kits for different stakeholder audiences, and also enlisting the help of other influencers, if you will, in the industry. So Texas Realtors, local boards of realtors, individuals such as yourselves, just to help spread the word as much as we can. In the meantime, trec.texas.gov/LMS, that's short for License Management System, is going to be the one-stop place to go for the most updated information. So when we do have a launch date, it will be there. It is being updated, so that's where you want to go. Another snapshot in the report is the video series. Sierra produced this to commemorate TREC's 75th anniversary. So she wanted to bring some visibility to the people who have worked here, some for decades. And many of the faces here had a lot of personal experience and professional to share. So the result was a fun communications campaign that kind of bridged the past and the present while making a more relatable image of state regulation. So those are on our YouTube channel. You can find them all there. So this concludes my report. I'm happy to answer questions you may have.
When you send out TREC Advisor, do you post it online? I couldn't find any of the like archives or anything online.
The archives for this are not fed to the website, no.
Is when we do our new website, is there a way to put a blog section or something that those can be posted and people can reference back to it?
Yes, I think the majority of items should be in articles on the website, though.
Okay, and then also recently I didn't see an easy way to sign up for newsletters.
Okay, you can go to trec.texas.gov/newsletters. That's where all the sign up links are for the
Right,
newsletters.
but how do people know to go there if they're not signed up for anything?
We have it, well, we push it out on social media. That's actually the banner of our Facebook page right now, is to go to trec.texas.gov/newsletters. I think I had it here in my script, but maybe didn't mention it. So here's the place. You can go there to sign up for
Is
the
there a way to
newsletters.
put that on our website? Because people know to go to our website.
It is on our website. It should be on our website. Are you looking for something like a banner
Or just something that people know that they can sign up for a newsletter, something that's easily found and not dug for?
Yeah, I think people are finding it. We have 184,000 subscribers
I'm
in our
just asking,
database.
can we add it so it's easy for people to see? I don't care about that. People say they can't find it.
Okay. Well, I encourage them to go to trec.texas.gov/newsletters. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Else? Great. I will see you this afternoon.
Okay, so a couple things. If you have public comments, please bring the slip of paper up and we will recognize you shortly after a 5-minute break. Also recognizing that Commissioner Bernstein is present with us now, so welcome, Stuart. All righty.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Going to call the meeting back into session. And we're going to go to agenda item 20, which is public comments. And those will be 3 minutes for each comment. And let's start with Melissa Smith from Realm Real Estate Professionals.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Melissa Smith with Realm Real Estate Professionals, as stated. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys today on behalf of many dedicated agents and professionals across the state of Texas. There are a few concerns that we have. They're not on the agenda, so I understand maybe that they can't be commented on, but I do hope they'll be received. Several growing issues that have agents mostly from this level have been noticing that are affecting the industry standard. And I'll very quickly, within my 3 minutes, like to address 5 of them. But first of all, I would like to point out the time discrepancy that for this meeting on the website. It clearly states 10 a.m., but then we get here and it's started at 9 a.m. So that's something to think about in the future, please. That's kind of unacceptable. We're seeing a big increase in mass licensing of new agents under standards that many of us as agents believe are simply too low. Although it was refreshing to see a drop in the fiscal year 2023. Regardless, I feel that the bar of entry is not aligned with the complexity, responsibility, and legal knowledge that this profession still demands in this day and age. The flood of underprepared licensees doesn't just affect the market professionals, it creates confusion and risk for those that you represent, who are the consumers. We're calling on TREC to raise the minimum education, preparation, and testing standards so that only truly qualified and dedicated individuals are granted licenses in the state of Texas. With thousands of already incredible agents in the state, there's absolutely no reason to continue to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Second, we're increasingly concerned about the unlicensed professionals having access to our contracts and forms. These are legal documents developed to protect both us and, most importantly, the consumers who are involved. When untrained individuals download and attempt to use these, Without professional guidance, and increases liability for all parties. Contracts should always remain, and other forms, tools for licensed professionals and their attorneys who are held to ethical and legal standards. Third, we must raise the standards for brokers. Brokers are the final line of oversight in all our industry, and yet current requirements allow individuals with limited transaction experience, knowledge, and management skills to supervise other agents like myself. A broker's license should come with increased responsibility and therefore increased requirements and eligibility and ongoing training. I personally have contacted brokers for guidance and advice just to be told that they have no idea and they've never had experience. And I've been the one to educate them after locating the correct information. Fourth, we want to urge TREC to prevent and eliminate the idea of online or at-home licensing. The convenience of remote testing does come to a cost.
Time.
Can I finish my statement, please? Thank you. It comes to decreased oversight, increased instances of dishonesty, and diluted public trust, which we already see that happening a lot. If we're going to maintain integrity in the profession, testing must be secure, proctored, and taken seriously. Finally, the promulgated sales contracts and commissions needs to be in the same contract under the same paragraph. I apologize. And then I'll leave you with this thought. The real estate industry seems to slowly becoming a laughing stock, and a lot of us are seeing it increased in our own brokerages and in our own sales, from FSBOs and wholesalers to whatever the case may be. And I want to ask you, what happens when I'm out of a job? Where does that leave all of you? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Can you repeat her name, please? Or can you repeat your name?
Melissa Smith.
Okay. And you're representing yourself or your brokerage or?
I'm a real estate professional.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Brian Sledge. No?
I think that's for a later agenda item.
Okay. Roland Yost.
Good morning, I'm Roland Yost. I got my license in 1976, and I've been a full-time agent for next year 50 years. And I've always enjoyed TREC. I've just have some concerns about consumers, and I know that consumers have concerns. And it's a lot like what Melissa was saying, the licensing. A lot of agents are not educated enough. I get agents calling me from other brokerage companies, and I tell them, I can't help you. You need to call your own broker. I have agents that work for me, and they call me and say, what do we do? And I go, they need to go to their broker. And so we need to make our licensing a little stronger, okay? The next thing I agree with Missy is the TREC forms. They should not be for the public. That's why our wholesalers are able to do wholesalings, because they use our forms. And they solicit to us to sell their properties. And we need to do something about the wholesalers. The other thing is going to be the commissions on our contracts, on our single-family contracts and commercial, because I do both. And I teach both. I've been teaching since 1996. There's several places that they're located. Like on the residential contract, it's on page 14, I think it is. No, that's commercial. Commercial's 14, and residential is number 9, I think it is. But anyway, you have it in 2 places in residential and 2 places in commercial on the contracts, the sale contracts. And I think that we need to combine our commission into a paragraph where it talks about, listing broker paying co-broker, seller paying co-broker, buyer paying co-broker, and get it just really clarified more than the way it is. But I thank you for your time and appreciate everything y'all do for us.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to agenda item 25. Will be General Counsel Abby Lee talking through a long list of rules for possible adoption.
Good morning. Abby Lee, General Counsel for the record. So we're going to move to agenda item 25 for the newer commissioners and for those in the audience. These are rules that have already been proposed by this body, have gone out for public comment, and now it is up to the commission whether they wish to formally adopt these at this point based on the comments received. Okay. So agenda item 25 is possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535. In the interest of time, the specific sections up for adoption are listed in the agenda and included in your materials. The majority of these changes are made as a result of the agency's license management system project, the Realm portal. Because of this project, users will be able to provide information to the agency through an online process rather than by submitting a paper form. As a result, rule language is clarified to reflect this change and simply provides that a process acceptable to the Commission must be used. The remainder of the changes I'll go through are a little bit different. So a clarifying change is made to the time period referenced in 535.35C2, 535.91B1, and 535.403D to simplify the calculation of the time period. Because of the Realm portal requirements, the proposed changes to 535.62G3 clarify that a course approved for additional delivery methods under 62A3 expires on the same date as that of the originally approved course. This subsection also includes terminology change for consistency. The proposed changes to 535.75D1 remove the specific requirements for a distance education delivery course completion roster. This requirement is no longer necessary because of the Commission's continuing education posting system. Additionally, the language in subsection D1B8 and D1C is being removed to better reflect agency process and requirements. The changes to 535.208E1 correct references to applicable law. And then finally, new language is added to 535.4043 to provide notice that when submitting online payment, the Commission may collect a subscription or convenience fee required by DIR. So we did get some comments on these changes, and they were reviewed by the Executive Committee. The committee ultimately declined to make any changes, but I'm going to go through the changes as we receive them. So on Rule 535.2, 2 comments were received. One comment was in support of the proposed change, while the other expressed concern about the new system not verifying information or not having a paper backup. The system will increase efficiencies and user convenience, but agency staff continues to remain involved in the process. It's not a substitute. Further, if online services become unavailable, the language allows for flexibility in the method of submission. And then finally, all agency data, including information submitted via the system, is routinely backed up to ensure data protection. On 535.66, there was one comment received expressing concerns about, again, the same lack of verification. For the same reason, the system increases efficiencies and user convenience, but again, it's not a substitute for staff. And then finally, we got one comment on 535.404. The commenter cited concern about the DIR fee. However, the purpose of the language is to really provide notice of the fee associated with the DIR's online payment system. It's a required fee regardless of format. So while there were no changes made as a result of the comments, 2 changes were made to 535.91C and 535.403F. These changes were made to better coincide with the launch of the Realm Portal project. And so the language in these subsections are no longer being removed, and the remaining sections are no longer being renumbered because of that removal. So therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535 as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, it passes.
Okay. Do you want me to keep going on, or do you want to go back to the contested cases?
Well, it's 10:58,
Yes.
so you want to go to the contested cases.
Yeah, up to you. Okay.
Okay. So we have in front of us today 5 contested cases. So the process here is that, we will listen to the case, and then anybody that's here to speak on behalf of the case. And so what I'll do is, introduce our Director of Enforcement, Mike Malloy, to let him talk about each case, and then we'll see who's here to talk. So, Mike? So the first case is SOA docket 329-2501-776, Daniel Scott Hedgesworth Sr. versus TREC. Is there anyone here to speak for this individual? Okay, seeing none. Proceed.
Morning again. Mike Malloy, Director of Enforcement for the record. Today here we have consideration of our case against Mr. Hedgesworth. He applied for a sales agent license, and TREC sought denial of the application based on his criminal history and his failure to demonstrate his honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity for licensure. So basically, he had a driving license suspended, a misdemeanor, and obstructing identification, which is a Class A misdemeanor. More concerning was the smuggling of persons, which is a felony, and he's currently on a 4-year deferred adjudication that will end in 2028. He additionally failed to disclose his 2011 offense, which was the driving while suspended license. And as you would realize that, smuggling individuals is a serious offense, and it directly relates to the duties of being a real estate license. The ALJ agreed, and applying the factors under Chapter 53, determined that denying his application was appropriate. Therefore, staff recommends adopting the PFD and therefore denying Mr. Hedgesworth's application for a sales agent license.
So moved.
No. Any
Mike,
questions?
the offense of driving with a suspended license, was that a misdemeanor?
Yes, sir. Class A misdemeanor. It's in Illinois, so.
Okay. And is there a requirement with respect to, because a ticket could be a misdemeanor, right? So at what point does that cross over? Are licensees required to report misdemeanors? That's what I was trying to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it really depends on the state. So we have to look at the penal code for that. In this case, it was a Class A misdemeanor, and I believe it's the same thing in Texas. So basically, it starts at Class A. Like speeding tickets, which are typically considered Class C misdemeanors, they don't have to disclose those.
Okay.
But this is a little more than a traffic violation.
Right.
So it's something that's required to be disclosed.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no. I was, how is it that someone came to have, what's confusing is how is it that someone came to have their license suspended off of a misdemeanor offense, right? And so, I believe it's automatic when you refuse to identify to a law enforcement official when you're supposed to.
Well, those are two separate events. I don't know what led up to his 2011 suspended license. That could have been for the failure to pay for a fee or something like that.
Right.
There's a myriad of reasons. You can get your license suspended for failing to have insurance.
Right.
So.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Other questions? Okay. The next item for consideration, next case is SOA docket 329-25-12923, TREC versus Gregory Dwayne Grant Jr. Is anyone here to speak for Mr. Grant? Okay. Seeing none. Proceed.
So in this case, staff seeking the revocation of Mr. Grant's real estate sales agent license based on his criminal history. In November of last year, Mr. Grant pleaded guilty to aggravated assault of a child with first-degree felony. He's placed on deferred adjudication for 8 years. The offense occurred when he was in April of 2022, when he was 35 years old. It's not a youthful type of indiscretion. Regardless of that fact, he currently is on condition of supervision to basically be prohibited from being within 1,000 feet of any locations where children gather, and must avoid any contact with minors that are not his biological children. So the ALJ determined that the respondent violated 1101-652A1, which means he pled guilty to a felony regardless of deferred adjudication. And the ALJ found that continued licensure would pose a potential risk of public safety. So staff the ALJ determined that staff met its burden and recommended that revocation of his license. So therefore, we request that the commission adopt this PFD and revoke Mr. Grant's real estate sales agent license, excuse me.
Any
Question.
Yeah.
I noticed that the PFD did not address Mr. Grant's testimony. Did he not testify? I know he was present for the hearing. Did he not testify?
I believe he testified, yes.
Okay. The PFD didn't include his testimony. Was there a reason for that?
I wouldn't.
That's just
measure
what they did,
together.
right?
It's how they weigh it and how they make that determination. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. I'm sorry. He cross-examined our expert, May Cooper, but he didn't provide direct testimony, so that's why it's reflected there.
Okay.
The attorney that handled the matter, Sandy
makes sense.
Zimmerman, she clarified me on that. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, let's go to SOA docket 329-25-11-440, TREC versus Anthony Larry Abana. Is anyone here to speak for Mr. Abana? Okay.
Okay. So this matter considers disciplinary action against Mr. Abana. He's a licensed real estate sales agent, and he pled guilty to the second-degree felony of aggravated assault family member. He's placed on community supervision for 6 years. Additionally, he failed to notify the commission within 30 days, as required by statute after the case was, after he pled guilty. Particularly concerning in this case is, per the indictment, he used his hands as a deadly weapon and applied pressures on a female's throat. So after the hearing, the ALJ determined that he violated 1101-652A1 because he pleaded guilty to a felony offense. And additionally, he determined that he failed to notify the commission within 30 days. After considering the statutory requirements under Chapter 53, the ALJ found that we met our burden of proof and recommended that we administer a $500 administrative penalty and revoke Mr. Abana's real estate sales agent license. Therefore, staff recommends that the commission adopt this PFD, revoking Mr. Abana's sales agent license and administer a $500 administrative penalty.
Okay, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the last one, which is
Second to last.
Second to last.
Second to last, which is TREC versus Chantel M. Allison, 329-24-23015. Is there anyone here to speak for Chantel Allison? Okay. go ahead.
Okay. So in this case, Ms. Allison, sales agent, in collaboration, she made up a fake business name known as Second Chance Realty Team, or Second Chance Team, and advertised these services for $499 that promised to guarantee to clients acceptance into a rental property. In addition to the service fee, the clients were also charged a $25 consultation fee. At the hearing, the respondent admitted that Second Chance team was operated by her spouse, and she had conspired with her spouse to procure prospect tenants for exchange for fees. Initially, the respondent claimed that she had a contractual relationship with Second Chance team and paid $1,000 per month in exchange for referrals. However, it was later revealed to be a cover for the operation run by her unlicensed spouse. In one specific case, the complainant hired the license holder respondent after seeing the advertisement, and during the representation of the complainant, Ms. Allison submitted approximately 65 applications on behalf of the complainant and her boyfriend, many of which were submitted without their knowledge or approval regarding the properties selected. Importantly, the complainant had informed Ms. Allison of an eviction history, and her boyfriend had a criminal history. Despite this, Ms. Allison knowingly omitted this critical information from all the submitted applications. She also fabricated a reference contact under Crystal Johnson, claiming this person was the applicant's current landlord. In reality, Crystal Johnson did not exist. The contact information provided by Crystal Johnson directed inquiries back to Ms. Allison herself, allowing her to pose as a fake landlord to provide favorable references. Further, the investigation showed that Ms. Allison used the same fake landlord identity across multiple applications for various clients, not just the complainant. The ALJ found that Allison violated 6 separate statutes and rules, including dishonest conduct, misrepresentation, and acting in concert with an unlicensed individual. The ALJ concluded that Ms. Allison lacks the honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity to hold a real estate license and recommended revocation of her sales agent license and an administrative penalty of $15,000. Staff recommends the adoption of the proposal in full, revoking Ms. Allison's license and imposing a $15,000 administrative penalty. The attorney that handled this matter is available for more detailed questions.
Okay.
When
Any
was this
questions?
complaint? When was this complaint filed?
I don't have that exact date. in front
Can
of
you
me.
find that out during break for me, please?
Mr. Bruner may know. It's February of last year.
Have there been any other complaints filed on her? Because you said there's other people that you saw.
Well, that was part of the investigative process, revealed more of that stuff. So there hasn't been any other complaints filed. More of.
Other questions? All right. Moving to the last case, TREC versus Sterling Raphael Reed. SOA docket 329-24-24-206. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Mr. Reed? Okay, seeing none. Mike?
All right, so this is an inspector case, which we don't get these very often. So concerns disciplinary action against Mr. Reed, licensed professional inspector, for violations arising from a inspection that occurred in June of 2021. He was inspecting a residential property in the Dallas area, and the buyer, who's the complainant, relied on Mr. Reed's inspection in deciding, to purchase the property. After closing, the buyer discovered extensive rot and subfloor damage, resulting in thousands of dollars worth of repair. So the administrative law judge found that Mr. Reed violated statutes and regulatory requirements, including 1100.2031, 301. They concluded that he conducted inspection in a negligent manner. Additionally, 535.222B1, he failed to include his name and his license number on his inspection report. 535.228A1A, he failed to provide a written opinion in regards to the foundation's performance. And 535.228A1B2 failed to state the vantage point from which the crawl space that was inspected. So Mr. Reed's inspection omitted key information and did not identify visible signs of wood rot or discoloration, and failed to provide a written opinion regarding the foundation's performance, which is an important part of the standards of practice. When we're talking about the foundation, it's paramount that you're giving your opinion about what the present condition of the foundation is, and that he failed to do that in this case. Once we did, there was a follow-up inspection, and it confirmed that there was damage and was extensive, and it existed at the time that Mr. Reed did the inspection. We had Mike Morgan from the inspector committee. He provided expert testimony, and he concurred on the findings in the case. The respondent in general didn't provide any explanation or admission for the inconsistencies. He did have some prior disciplinary history. It was more on the minor side because it was an advertising violation, but it was disciplined nonetheless. So the ALJ determined that appropriate punishment in this situation would have been a $6,000 administrative penalty and a 1-year fully probated suspension of his license. Commission originally asked for $12,000 administrative penalty and 2 years of probated suspension. I think the ALJ acknowledged the seriousness, but maybe didn't fully understand the context of what Mr. Reed did in this situation. So staff was, myself, the staff is recommending that we increase the probated suspension from 1 year to 2 years, but still maintain the $6,000 administrative penalty. $6,000 I think is sufficient in this situation, but given the oversight, I think it's necessary to move it to a 2-year probated suspension. So, and my reasons for that is, he conducted this inspection that caused substantial monetary harm to the buyer. They weren't simply a matter of oversight. I would classify more of this stuff as gross negligence. After looking at the evidence and the photos that were present, this is something that should have been investigated further just by the overt facts dealing with the foundation. He didn't provide an opinion, and while he did check mark the deficiency box, that's not sufficient enough under the standards of practice. You need to write an opinion. It may not be the correct opinion, but you need to write it, and he failed to do so in this case. But overall, I think, just for public, consumer protection, a deterrence, a 2-year probated suspension better reflects the seriousness of his actions, and it strikes a appropriate balance between consumer protection, accountability, and the possibility of professional rehabilitation for Mr. Reed. Therefore, we recommend the adoption of the PFD with the exception to change the 1-year probated suspension to 2-year probated suspension.
Questions?
Mike, with respect to restitution, is there an ability to recover some of those funds on behalf of the complainant due by way of restitution? Does the statute provide for that in any way?
So all inspectors need to have their E&O insurance. So there's a method going through that way.
And that would be a civil matter,
It would be a civil matter.
Okay.
And even if, they went through that backup way would be the recovery fund, that would still be a civil matter they would have to do as well. I don't know, since this inspection occurred so long ago, what their options would be because of statutory limitations and stuff. But I don't know if John here, he handled the case. Do you remember anything the complainant did for? I'm not aware if they ever filed a civil case or not. Yeah, we're not aware of what they did in regards to civil cause of action to,
Is this if there was a recovery fund, was this the one that was removed, or it's still in place?
So to Mike's point, so there's not a statutory authority for us to order restitution, but Mike is right. There are some other mechanisms through E&O, an E&O claim, or potentially filing a claim with the recovery fund. The Inspector Recovery Fund is the one that is winding down. So it would all be based on the timing of when the cause of action accrued, and so I'm not sure if that would satisfy. But at the very least, there would be an opportunity for an E&O claim.
No, I'd just like to point out that the necessary repairs were in excess of $100,000.
Yeah.
And that is a very large number.
That was their estimate. I will say there was no evidence to substantiate that amount of money, because they did do some repairs that seemed to rectify the more serious areas of the floor of the floorboards and stuff. In general, the piers, I believe, that were not substantially damaged. So I mean, I can't attest to the 100,000 except the fact that the complainant testified to that. So
And this goes back to what I was asking Mr. Warren about with respect to continuing education and the requirements for report writing and all those good things. But in addition to the suspension, can we enter a requirement for him to take certain continuing education classes?
Unfortunately, no. I would love it. I think this is a very good case for this, and we attempted to do that when we attempted to settle with him, but we just came to an impasse and it was not possible. But unfortunately, yeah, the statute doesn't allow, it's just real limited, and we punish and fine. We can't do additional education. But yeah, it's something that possibly could be explored, for future legislative action. I'd love that kind of tool as well.
Thank you.
Mike, why are we recommending extending the probation but reducing the fine? That doesn't comprehend with me.
So there's the range of fines. The range, we have the penalty matrix. So it gives you a range of a certain amount of money from one end to another. And this end, we went high, like on every category. So, thinking about just the factors associated with it, I think $6,000 for an inspector himself in the profession that they're in is sufficient a deterrent enough. And we put that together with other cases that could be similar. This is on the high, 6,000 would be on the higher end of someone that did like a negligent type of inspection. So.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Kind of.
Okay.
But with respect to the suspension, you're recommending an additional year to the one.
Yes. Yeah. I feel that's a better tool than a monetary fine in this situation.
Other questions? Thank you. Okay, so from here, we will go into executive session for approximately, it's 11:22, but
30. Reconvene at 12:30.
For about an hour, maybe.
What's that?
12:30.
12:30. We will reconvene at 12:30. So be back if you're looking for.
And Chair, do you mind reading the
Yeah.
language there? Thank you.
Going into executive session.
To discuss pending litigation.
So here, let's see here. Okay, so, yep, please.
Do you have the disclaimer? Or not the disclaimer, the announcement?
Oh, it's on the agenda. Okay. All right. So executive session to discuss pending litigation or obtain advice of legal counsel on agenda items pursuant to Government Code, Texas Government Code 551.071. So we'll see you back in an hour. or 12:30. So whatever, 12:32, or we're back in business here, back in session. All righty, so we just completed agenda item 22. So I guess we will
Go back to agenda item 21.
go back to 19, yeah. Yeah. The 19?
21.
21, yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're out of executive session and we're time to consider these SOA cases. So
You'll start with 21A.
we're going to start with SOA docket, agenda item 21 and A, which is SOA docket 32925 01776, Daniel Scott Hedgeworth Senior versus TREC. So do we have a motion? Or you're going to? Okay. Discussion?
Who was the second?
Any discussion? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Passed. Approved. Okay. 21B. SOA docket 32925, 12923, TREC versus Gregory Dwayne Grant Jr. Do I have a motion? Second. Conversation, comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Okay, 21C. This 21C. This is TREC versus Anthony Larry Abana.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. 21D, this would be TREC versus Chantal M. Allison.
Move to adopt the PFD as written.
Second over here. Any discussion?
I'd like to go on the record, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
There's a place where the ALJ states that there's an eviction and criminal history in this, and it's not harmful or deceitful. Well, it says actually, I think, while it is deceitful, it wasn't harmful. Right. And I think when you read that, it makes it appear to be a general statement as opposed to one specifically to a situation. Just want to be on the record of saying this type of deceit and this type of fraud, in my opinion, is very harmful.
I also have a comment. This agent got her license in May 2023. This started in 24, or the complaint was filed in 24. This is another reason for a temporary suspension. She has participated in many, many, many transactions since then and has some pending now. And she still advertises what she's going to do for people online all over the place. And we're not protecting the consumer by waiting this long to take away her license.
Okay.
Also, one quick question, and staff could probably answer this. When we get cases like this, can it be filed with law enforcement?
Referral.
Some of these fraud cases are actually being actively pursued by law enforcement. We can pursue, we can see if we can get references to pursue these and refer them over to the district attorneys. Historically, they haven't been very welcoming on that. It's usually from their own police work that most of their cases come from. So
We don't have a duty to inform?
we don't have a legal we don't have a legal requirement, no.
Okay.
But we have been working in conjunction with Houston PD on a lot of these fraud cases.
That was going to be my question is the reference made to the police department or to the DA's office?
Historically, we've been trying to reach out to the DA because we're not the victim.
Right.
And the police would need the victim in order to file the complaint. So.
And what happens with the broker in these cases, since the broker already knows that she was doing this back in 2024, I would assume? So the broker obviously still has her working with her. Or with him.
They're aware of it, and it's still an active case, so.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Agenda item 21E.
Did we vote on that?
Oh, did we vote?
We need to
We didn't vote. Excuse me.
We need to.
Do what?
Yeah, I think we need a vote. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. All right. All right, now moving to E. Sorry about that. TREC versus Sterling, Raphael Reed. We have a motion.
Based on the consumer harm caused by Mr. Reed's negligence, I move to suspend his license for 2 years on a prorated basis and assess a $6,000 administrative penalty.
Second. Okay. Second, motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out the egregiousness of this, negligence and the amount of damage that was caused is really severe. And I think that the commission feels that a 2-year probated suspension is appropriate at this time as opposed to the 1 year. Personally, from my standpoint, in my opinion, this is something that, we need to take very seriously with respect to protecting the public with respect to inspections. And, to that end, we need to give some consideration in the future as to the amount of, complaints that we get related to inspections. To me, it seems a little low compared to how the amount of inspectors that we have out there, the number of transactions that are being executed with respect to real estate transactions. And so I think it's very important that the commission takes a very diligent approach in looking at the way these offenses are taking place and the negligence that are related thereto. And so I strongly recommend also the 2-year probated suspension.
Comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you. Move to the recovery fund. Item 23. General Counsel Abby Lee.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. Agenda item 23 is discussion and possible action to authorize settlement of recovery fund claims or take other action in RF 25009 Tyler Danover versus Nathaniel Callahan, Independent Administrator for the estate of Kenneth Lee Llewellyn, deceased, and Key Group Realty, Inc., doing business as Sunburst Realty. As the chair noted, this is our recovery fund claim for possible settlement. The recovery fund, for those in the audience, is a fund set up to reimburse consumers for harm caused by license holders. So this is a claim that we received where the claimant argued they were harmed and thus should receive reimbursement. So as a reminder, this claim involved a brokerage and a designated broker who collected rent and security deposits on behalf of property owners as property managers. The designated broker passed away and the property owner's money was never returned. We do need a motion for this, and so the staff recommendation is that the commission move to authorize a settlement payment of $31,287 plus 8.5% interest calculated on the $29,905 awarded in the judgment.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to accept staff's recommendation with respect to the settlement.
Second. Okay, over here. Chance? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right.
Agenda item 24. Agenda item 24 is the report regarding denial of recovery fund claims. The commission has a policy which delegates authority to staff to deny certain recovery fund claims. This is usually based on statutory requirements, eligibility. That policy also requires staff to provide a summary report of those denials to the commission at its quarterly meeting. You did receive a copy of the denial letters under separate cover, and this item, again, does not require any action by the committee. Agenda item 24A is the report regarding denial of recovery fund claim RF 25004 Brewster Waddell for Eleanor Waddell versus Aaron Osborne and Virgil Barber. This claim was denied because the claimant was unable to demonstrate that any actual damages were attributable to the license holder, which is a statutory requirement. And then agenda item 24B is the report regarding denial of recovery fund claim RF 25008 Razzle Dazzle LLC versus Catherine May Douglas. This claim was denied because the amounts requested to be reimbursed from the fund were not out of pocket, which is a requirement of the fund. Again, no report or no action is necessary, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay. Then we're back to 25, or excuse me, we did 25, we're back to 26.
26, right? Okay.
Yes.
So now we are back to adopted rules. So again, these have already been proposed by the commission. They've gone out for public comment, and now they're back before you for possible adoption. So agenda item 26 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 535.191 Schedule of Administrative Penalties. The proposed amendment in 535.191 was made to reflect a corresponding change in another rule, 535.91, which removed subsection C of that section and renumbered the subsections accordingly. No comments were received. However, because the language in 91C, 535.91C, is no longer being removed to better coincide with the launch of the Realm portal, the corresponding change here is no longer needed at this time. So the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to withdraw amendments to 535.191 from the Texas Register.
Second. Okay. Conversation? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Proceed.
Okay. Agenda item 27 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 535.60 definitions, 535.65 responsibilities and operations of providers of qualifying courses, 535.70 definitions, and 535.72 approval of non-elective continuing education courses. So the amendment to 535.65 G1B1 replaces the phrase check the photo identification with verify the identification of each student to first broaden the language in recognition of technological developments that may allow for required verification in different ways. Two, help alleviate concerns about the security of a student's personal data while taking a course. And then three, make consistent with language used elsewhere in the rule. The remainder of the amendments to 535.65 remove the requirement to have a qualifying course examination proctored and to have a proctor in situations where a course is delivered through the use of technology and there are more than 20 students at a remote site. The proctoring requirements were recommended to be removed out of concerns that, again, one, the exam requirement was unnecessary because the licensing examination itself is proctored, and two, the requirements generally are overly burdensome. The change to 535.65H1 removes the requirement that the examinations be closed book in light of the removal of the proctoring requirements. The term classroom delivery is added to 535.65G1C to specify that the obligation applies to that type of course. The language in 535.65H5 is reworded for consistency with similar language found in 535.72. The changes in 535.65M1 and 535.72H1 are made as a result of the Realm Portal project. And again, because of this project, users will be able to provide information to the agency through an online process rather than by submitting a paper form. And so the rule language is clarified to reflect that change. The amendments to 535.60 and 70 remove the definition of proctor and renumber accordingly for the reasons provided above. And then finally, the amendments to 535.72 G3B remove the proctoring requirement for inspector non-elective continuing education course requirements for distance education delivery for similar reasons and make clarifying changes for rule consistency. Comments were received on some of the proposed changes and were reviewed by both the Education Standards Advisory Committee and the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee. Ultimately, those committees both declined to make changes. I'll go through these as we've received them. So 8 comments were received on the proposed amendments to 535.65. One commenter was in favor of all of the proposed changes. However, 2 commenters expressed concern about the change to the photo identification language. However, while that specific change is being replaced with broader term, the change does not preclude providers from checking a photo ID as a means of verification. Providers may have other ways to accomplish this verification, given the many advances in technology that may be more secure. 2 commenters were in favor of the removal of the proctor language in the rules, stating that the requirement was unnecessary and burdensome, while 4 commenters were concerned about the removal of the proctoring language and closed book requirement, citing concerns about potential lack of preparation for the state licensing exam, and that students may be less attentive during the exam. The committees, however, did not share this concern. 1 comment was received on 535.70. The commenter expressed concern that the removal of the proctoring definition there were security concerns. However, under the rule, examinations are still required to be administered under conditions that ensure the student taking the exam is the student who registered for and took the course. So while no changes are being made as a result of the comments, a non-substantive change is being made to 535.65H4 to remove a colon that was inadvertently left in the text. So therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535 as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second. Over here. Okay. Any comments?
Yes. So, and this is up for discussion, obviously. We keep hearing raise the bar, raise the bar, raise the bar, but here we're giving people the right to have open book exams. And to me, that lowers the bar. And also, this says that it doesn't preclude providers from checking photo ID. There are other ways to accomplish this. What are the other ways to accomplish? Are we putting that in writing, which you need to check? Because as we know, interpretation is very different to very many people. And it's not ensuring that the student that's registered is actually the student taking the test or whatever it may be. So I feel like we're going down a bit instead of going up a bit.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll start with the verification of identification language change. So currently in the rule, it says check the photo ID. And the thought or concern from the committees on that is that having that be the only way to verify ID may not be the best way to do it because there are some different ways that technology allows you to verify ID that also don't necessarily have the risk of showing a photo ID, which is I think what currently is happening, showing photo IDs like on a screen. And so there was concern about security of someone's personal information that way. So the idea was, well, we'll make the language broader, verification of ID, so that there's still that requirement to do it, but that providers have more flexibility in making that determination. So they still ultimately have to verify ID, but they aren't just limited to one way to do it.
So how do we know if they're checking a photo to a person?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think that would be if there was a complaint filed, and that we would uncover that in the investigation. I think, with anything, anytime we have a new requirement, we'll send out communications. We may even have some suggestions as to what that could look like, just to make sure providers are aware
So this can't be a little bit more specific and say a means with a photo? Or I mean, some way written that a photo has to be included in whatever that kind of check is?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways the language could have been drafted. This was the recommendation coming from ESAC and the inspector committee as well, and that was their concern, that having it listed in a specific way may not account for other options that actually might be more secure and better at verifying identification than what was currently in the language.
I think a lot of whenever you apply for certain things, I think the wording that they use, a valid government issued ID, is the common phraseology, if you allow me. Is that what we're saying here? Or?
Well, it could be one way that providers could do it. I mean, again, the overarching obligation is to verify identification, so that could be, one way is actually showing a photo ID, checking it. There could be other ways that I am not even aware of that technology allows for, that runs an ID or checks that in some other way. So as far as like, does it require showing it, or is there a way to enter information that checks it against a database? I'm not sure, but that was the idea of there's a lot of advances, and so to give providers options that may be better in some ways, that's why the language was a little more broad.
Even if it says, which I would like, better than what it's worded now, valid
Yeah, 'cause
government issued ID, they could, if it's technology, they would have to enter that number and it would have to match something somewhere with a photo. But right now, we're saying it could be anything, and we don't know what that technology is. And we don't know if that person's for real or for not.
It can be anything, but it has to be providers have to be able to verify ID. So if it doesn't do that, it's not going to be in compliance with the rule at the end of the day. Yes.
One of the reasons for the broadness of the language, as I recall from ESAC, is to not, like General Counsel said, not be limiting to things that we actually don't really know about yet. But there's uses of QR codes and certain things like that could be developed. But primarily, I wanted to convey that we will be checking these types of things through the administrative audits that we perform on the qualifying education providers. So while we're not giving them the detail of the requirement, that's upon them, and it's a business decision that they would make. But it is something that we would look at through an administrative audit on a regular basis.
What is the harm of us saying a valid government issued ID? Because it still would cross-reference if it was technology too.
So is your suggestion to kind of go back to the current language?
I mean, even if you're using technology, you're still going to have that government ID number to put into the technology to pull out the right person. So it just seems like it's kind of the same thing, but you're just using technology. So instead of leaving it so broad, make sure, I mean, the same thing you have to have hopefully to vote or whatever it is, you're still going to have to use it to take a test to show it's you.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's, in discussions that the committees have had, that broadness was what was desired. There were providers who are on represented or provided public comment who shared there are other ways to do this. And that was sufficient for the committees to make the recommendation before you.
And without a proctor, then people are up to do whatever they want to do, I guess?
Well, and so that was the other requirement. I believe the proctoring requirement is relatively new within the last 5 years, 6, somewhere, some there. And the thought is that, when you have a licensing exam that's already being proctored, that having it at this level was not necessary and was being a little bit overly burdensome. So the thought was to pull that back. Again, with the recognition that the licensing exam is something that's proctored.
So if we're looking at page, I guess, 243 on BI, I'm sorry, it's the provider must verify the identification of each student Or is that where I'm?
Yes, yes. Correct. That's the verification discussion we were just having.
Yeah, it doesn't speak to the method of which the identification is taking place, so I think that's fine.
No proctor and whatever is lowering the bar.
Well, I think the intent here is to expand on the ability to use whether a passport, driver's license, a Texas issued ID that still allows you to identify. It's just not specifically saying that you will use a
Government ID.
government issued ID. Nor does it say that it's required to be valid, but it's broad enough to allow you the flexibility to do that.
But should you leave it up to interpretation?
There's not much to interpret because they just have to verify.
Anything. It could be a student ID.
It's okay. I think it's okay the way it's written.
Any other comments? We have a motion, right?
Got a motion and a second.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
One opposed. All right.
Okay.
Item 28.
28, yes. Agenda item 28 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendment 22 TAC 537.63. This is the addendum for seller's disclosure of information on lead-based paint and lead-based paint hazards as required by federal law. Very long title. The amendments to 537.63 and the form adopted by reference are made as a result of the Commission's quadrennial rule review. The changes update or correct form reference numbering. No comments were received. However, because of changes to the form adopted by reference are being recommended by the Broker Lawyer Committee later on, you'll see that on the agenda, these changes actually can be reproposed. So as a result, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to withdraw amendments to 22 TAC 537.63 and the form adopted by reference from the Texas Register.
Second.
Okay, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes.
Okay. Agenda item 29 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 537.64, the non-realty items addendum, and 537.65, the notice to prospective buyer. The amendments to Chapter 537 and these forms adopted by reference are made again as a result of the quadrennial rule review. The changes update or correct form reference numbering. No comments were received, so the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 537 and the forms adopted by reference as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. All right. Agenda item 30 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 541.2, criminal history evaluation letters / determination of fitness. These amendments are made as a result of the Realm Portal project. Because of this project, users will be able to provide information through an online process rather than by submitting a paper form. As a result, rule language is clarified. No comments were received, and the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC 541.2 as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Okay. Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Agenda item 31 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 543.2 registration, 543.3 amendments, 543.4 fees, 543.6 violations, and 543.13 renewal of registration. The amendments to Chapter 543 are made as a result of quadrennial rule review and the Realm Portal project.
A clarifying change is made to the time periods referenced in 543.2, 543.6, and 543.13 to simplify and make consistent the calculation of the relevant time period. A new subsection G is added to 543.4 to provide notice that when submitting online payment, the Commission may collect a subscription or convenience fee required by DIR. And then because of the Realm Portal project, users will be able to provide more information and make payment online. And as a result, the rule language is clarified. The proposed changes to 543.6F also help align the language with agency process among other license types. No comments were received on the proposed amendments to 543.2, .3, .6, or .13. One comment was received on the proposed changes to 543.4, which was reviewed by the Executive Committee. This is a similar comment that you heard earlier. The commenter cited concern about the DIR fee, but the purpose of that language was to provide notice, and that's a required fee. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 543 as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Agenda item 32 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 543.5 forms. The proposed amendments to Chapter 543 are made as a result of quadrennial rule review and the Realm Portal project. Again, users will be able to provide information or make payment online rather than submitting a paper form or check, so the rule language is clarified. This includes the removal of references to several of the forms listed in 543.5, the consent to service of process form, which is adopted by reference. That form is also updated with a new title to differentiate the form from other consent forms and contains terminology changes. No comments were received. However, to better coincide with the launch of the license management project, these changes can be reproposed. So the staff recommendation at this time is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to withdraw amendments to 22 TAC 543.5 from the Texas Register.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, we are now switching gears from adopted to proposed rules. So these are your sort of first look at these drafts. And then ultimately it's up to you whether you want to propose them, which would mean they would go out for public comment. We would come back at the next meeting and review that public comment. Okay, agenda item 33 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC 531.20, information about brokerage services. The proposed changes to this rule and the form adopted by reference are made as a result of SB 1968, which becomes effective January 1st. So currently in the Real Estate License Act, there's certain information that's required to be included in a notice provided to consumers. That notice, as we all know, is the Information About Brokerage Services Notice, or IABS. This section further requires the Commission to prescribe by rule the specific text. SB 1968 actually added some additional information that must be described in the IABS, including the basic obligations a broker has to a party to a real estate transaction that the broker does not represent. It also added some language about written requirements or written agreements. So as a result, the language in the IBS has been updated to reflect changes as a result of this bill, and the form number listed in the rule, 531.20, has been updated. In addition to these proposed changes, the description of the contact information has been updated to better reflect current terminology. As a result, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 531.20 and the form adopted by reference as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Got a motion? Need a second?
Second.
Conversation? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Agenda item 34 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535. In the interest of time, the specific sections up for proposal are listed in the agenda and included in your materials. The proposed changes to these rules are also made to implement statutory changes enacted by SB 1968. One of the things that this bill does, our housekeeping bill, first, it requires that associated brokers, also defined by the bill, provide the commission the name of the broker they associate with, and allows the commission through rulemaking to provide notice of a complaint to another license holder associated with the respondent. As a result, that same definition has been added to 535.1. The bill also adds that license holders must provide the commission with certain business contact information, like a business address or a business phone number. So the changes in 535.21 reflect both of these additions and add that contact information will be provided through a process acceptable to the commission. You've seen that language kind of throughout. Next, the bill adds that public high schools are exempted from qualifying education provider requirements like accredited colleges or universities. And so as a result, that term, public high school, is added and clarifying changes are made to rule provisions in 535.61, 66, and 75 for consistency. Clarifying changes are also made to 535.66C1 to mirror the changes to the definitions of qualifying real estate courses found in the statute 1101.003. This was another change made by the bill. The bill modifies the requirements surrounding the broker responsibility course. Under the language of the bill, all brokers must take the course regardless of whether they sponsor sales agents. So changes were made to 535.92 to reflect those changes. And then finally, the bill authorizes the commission, again, I mentioned this earlier, but to provide complaint notices sent to the respondent, and that's the person who's subject of the complaint, to another license holder that's associated with the respondent. The bill further provides that the commission must adopt rules to specify who may receive this notice. So that's where you see the proposed changes in 535.141. They add that a copy of a complaint notice will be sent to the broker or inspector who sponsors the respondent as applicable if the respondent is a sales agent or apprentice or real estate inspector, or a broker who's associated with the respondent if the respondent is an associated broker. These proposed changes to this section were recommended by the Enforcement Committee. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Motion? So moved. Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, agenda item 35 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC 535.5, license not required, and 535.405, employee of owner or purchaser. So these proposed amendments are made as a result of a different bill, SB 1172. This bill exempts additional types of transactions from license requirements under Chapter 1101. And the proposed changes specifically in 535.5 modify existing exemption language related to employees of business entities, and then adds a reference to those exemptions in the statute 1101.005 for clarity. Similarly, the changes in 535.405 modify exemption language related to employees of owners or purchasers, so similar language, a little bit different, and also adds that same reference to 1101.005 for clarity. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 535.5 and 535.405 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Motion? So moved. Need a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
Item 36.
Agenda item 36 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC 535.56, education and experience requirements for a broker license. The changes to 535.56A1B2 and A1C are made as a result of SB 1968. This bill, again, modifies the requirements surrounding the broker responsibility course. Under the language of the bill, all brokers must take the course, regardless of whether they sponsor sales agents. Additionally, applicants for a broker's license must complete the course prior to licensure. The changes to these provisions reflect these statutory changes. The change to subsection E is made as a result of the Realm Portal project, allowing users to be able to access and provide information to the agency through an online process. As a result, the rule language is clarified. The remainder of the changes are brought to you or recommended by the Commission's Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee. So you heard a little bit about this earlier, but currently, in order to obtain a broker's license, an applicant must satisfy certain education and experience requirements. So an applicant must complete 270 hours of qualifying real estate courses and 630 hours of related real estate education. Currently, a bachelor's degree or higher is deemed to satisfy the 630 hours of real estate related education. Applicants must have at least 4 years of active experience during the 5 years preceding the filing of the application, which has to total a minimum of 360 points. The changes increase the minimum experience points required to obtain a broker's license from 360 to 720 experience points. Because there is no limitation on the subject matter of the bachelor's degree, which may not be related to real estate, the changes also cap the real estate-related education credit given for a bachelor's degree at 300 hours instead of the full 630 hours. At the same time, the changes allow for substitution of experience or education above the minimum 720 experience points. For any such experience, an applicant may receive a credit of up to 300 hours of the required 630 hours of real estate-related education. Next, the changes modify the property management experience calculations to a per property per year from the per property, which is what it currently says, to better reflect industry practices. And then finally, the changes modify the delegated supervision calculation to a points per transaction model at 3 points per transaction, which will enable an applicant to accrue more points for this type of activity than is currently available under the rule. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 535.56 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
I move that the Commission approve staff's recommendation.
Second. Second, okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Been a long
opposed?
time coming.
Oh, excuse me?
Been a long time coming.
Right. That's exactly right. Okay, motion passes.
Okay, we're on the home stretch. Agenda item 37 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 535.58, license for military service members, veterans, or military spouses. The proposed changes are made as a result of statutory changes enacted by HB 5629, which becomes effective September 1st. This bill modifies several provisions of Chapter 5 of the Occupations Code, which has to deal with occupational licensing for military service members, spouses, and veterans. The bill modifies the language to require a state agency to issue a license to an applicant that is a military service member, veteran, or spouse, and who holds a current license issued by another state that is similar in scope of practice to the license being sought and is in good standing, that's a defined term, with the state's licensing authority. The bill also modifies the procedure for out-of-state license recognition under another process, 550041 of the Occupations Code. And then finally, the bill changes the time period within which a state agency must issue the license from a 30-day time period to a 10 business day time period from the filing of the application. The amendments to this rule are made to reflect these required changes. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 535.58 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
I move approval.
Conversation, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Agenda item 38 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 535.191, Schedule of Administrative Penalties. This is the rule that we just saw that we withdrew the changes to. So the proposed amendment to 535.191C8 is made as a result of SB 1968. And that bill, again, adds a requirement for a written agreement with a prospective buyer of residential real property. So the bill also adds that the commission may take disciplinary action if there's a violation of this requirement. So in accordance with 1101.702 of our statute, which says if you're going to have a provision where you want to assess administrative penalties, it's got to be in this rule. That new violation is being added to subsection C8, and that is the $100 to the $1,500 per violation per day penalty tier. It's the lowest penalty tier. The proposed amendments to 535.191C9 are also made as a result of this bill, because that bill requires that associated brokers provide the commission the name of the broker they associate with. And as a result, that new subsection is proposed to be added to Commission Rule 535.21. And so the removal of the reference to A there essentially means that any violation of 535.21, including this new associated broker requirement, would fall into that first tier penalty range. A clarifying change is made to subsection E18 because of the corresponding change to 535.141, that initiation of investigation order requirement rule, which adds new subsection related to complaint notices. We talked about that earlier. Finally, existing violations associated with easement or right-of-way agents, ERWs, were added to subsections C 18 through 19, D 18 through 19, and E 21 through 22, and are categorized according to the criteria set forth in that statutory provision. The Enforcement Committee reviewed this and recommended the proposed changes. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 535.191 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal, to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Motion second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Agenda item 39 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments and new rule to 22 TAC Chapter 537. Again, in the interest of time, the specific sections up for proposal are listed in the agenda and included in your materials. Just to note, the changes that I'm about to go through apply to all contract forms unless specified otherwise. Paragraph numbers referenced are for the 1 to 4. So in paragraph 5A2, a definition of legal holiday has been added to provide better clarity. The term is also capitalized in the addendum for backup contract. And in paragraph 5 and on the receipt page, the terms option fee, earnest money, and contract are now in lowercase because they are not considered defined terms. In the Commission's recent special purpose review by the Sunset Advisory Commission, Sunset directed the Commission to add language to contract forms to provide the prospective buyers with relevant information on groundwater and surface water rights associated with their property. To that end, a new paragraph 7I has been added to the contract forms, and a new water notice, seller's disclosure about groundwater and surface water rights, has been created. In addition, or in light of the changes to industry practices surrounding compensation, paragraph 12A, 1B, and C are amended to clarify when such provisions should be used. Additionally, the disclosure at the bottom of page 10 related to compensation between brokers has been removed to help eliminate confusion. The broker information page has also been revised in part because of changes as a result of SB 1968. That bill removed references to the concept of subagency throughout Chapter 1101. So as a result, subagency, or rather subagent, is removed from that page. The page has also been further reorganized with updated formatting and terminology to better reflect industry practice, and including in light of this bill. The proposed changes to the buyer's temporary residential lease, the seller's temporary residential lease, and the landlord's floodplain and flood notice are made as a result of SB 2349 enacted by the 89th, which becomes effective September 1st. The bill clarifies that the flood notice is not required to be provided with the temporary residential leases, and so as a result, the paragraph referencing that requirement in our two forms is removed, and the notice on top of the floodplain and flood notice form is amended to state that the notice is not required with a, quote, TREC temporary residential lease. The terms listing broker and other broker have been replaced with the terms seller's broker and buyer's broker in the farm and ranch, and the addendum in the farm and ranch conduct, and the addendum for seller's disclosure of information on lead-based paint and lead-based paint hazard as required by federal law. All of these changes were recommended by the Broker Lawyer Committee. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments and new rule to 22 TAC Chapter 537 and the forms adopted by reference as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
So moved.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a
Thank
little
you for
bit.
getting rid of the compensation agreement on the page 10.
Yeah, I have, first of all, is there any way we can work on formatting and not continue to try to just stuff things into these forms? They're so hard to read already.
Yeah, that's a conversation that we're actually kind of having as the software that we currently use to create the contract forms is actually being phased out. So it's a conversation that we're having.
And then Lori may know more about this. If we're changing to seller's broker and buyer's broker, will their forms change? All the same. Okay. And then there was one more thing, and I wrote it down. Oh, so when you, did you want to say something?
I was just asking a question.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So when this happens all the time, when people are working with a client and you're dealing with one agent the whole time, and all of a sudden the team lead's name is the name on the contract and that person's name is nowhere to be found. It's not transparent and it's misleading, deceptive, whatever it is. And then when we go back and look at the IABS, it's somebody else's, not the person that worked with the client. And then when we talk about you must be trained for your first 3 times or whatever, you have nothing to go back to because that person's name's not on there. Can we talk about in some future meetings or whatever, adding the exact person that's been working this deal maybe to the team lead's name or something? Because it just doesn't seem transparent in protecting the consumer.
We can certainly have those conversations. Yeah. And I think, do we have a public comment?
Yes. I was going to say, we have a public comment from Brian Sledge.
Thank you, Chairman Woodruff and members of the commission. My name is Brian Sledge. I'm a water lawyer here in town with, have a small firm, 5-lawyer firm, been doing that for about 30 years. I'm here in support of the proposed rules, particularly the issues that relate to groundwater and surface water. This is something that I serve on the board of directors of the Texas Water Association, and we have worked in conjunction with the Texas Alliance of Groundwater Districts. These are the 2 biggest trade associations, think Texas Realtors, in the water world. And the number of problems we're seeing that relate to water and property transactions just continue to escalate. We have full legal dockets on enforcement actions that could have been avoided if buyers and sellers had just had a discussion related to water. Anyway, I want to thank the Brokers Lawyers Committee. We started working on this about 5 years ago in our water organizations and have been working for the better part of the last 2 years with the Brokers Lawyers Committee, and they're just a wonderful bunch. Fiercely protective of y'all's contract forms. It's kind of like we are when somebody goes to the legislature to change the water code. Wait, you can't do that without careful analysis and reflection. But anyway, I just want to thank Deacon Ron Walker and John George and S.J. Swanson, that whole bunch. They've just been wonderful to work with. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I just want to support the proposed rules.
Any question? Thank you very much.
You want to help us train this?
Yeah.
You want to help us train this when the time comes?
All right. All right. So we have a motion and a second, correct? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Agenda item 40 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC 537.62 standard contract form TREC number 55-0 seller's disclosure notice. The Sunset Advisory Commission directed, as part of that limited scope review we just talked about, that the TREC seller's disclosure notice be updated to provide several additional disclosures, including provide a prospective buyer with information on whether the property is currently covered by insurance, including windstorm insurance, and whether the current seller has been unable to insure their property. To inform a prospective buyer if there's a private road on or adjoining the property that that prospective buyer would be financially responsible for. Another one was to provide a prospective buyer with information on the existence of above-ground storage tanks on the property. 500 gallons and have stored petroleum products or other chemicals. And then to tell a prospective buyer whether their property is located in a conservation easement. As a result, the seller's disclosure notice has been updated to reflect those directives. One thing to note, in drafting these changes, the Broker Lawyer Committee noted the following. First, that TREC has historically published the seller's disclosure notice without changes to the notice as adopted by the legislature in 5.008 of the Property Code. The committee offers no opinion whether the commission should depart from its historical practice. And if the commission determines that it is appropriate to depart from its historical practice, then the committee finds the proposed revisions to the seller's disclosure notice before you are reasonable and reflective of the Sunset Advisory Commission's management actions. So the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 537.62 and the form adopted by reference as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second? All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I think this is our last one. Agenda item 41 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 20 TAC 543.5 forms and 543.13 renewal of registration. This is one of those that we earlier withdrew. The proposed amendments to 543.5 are made as a result of the Realm Portal project because users will be able to provide more information online. The rule language has been clarified. This includes the removal of references to most of the forms listed in 543.5, while the consent to service of process form adopted by reference is also updated with a new title to differentiate it from forms or from other consent forms. The form also contains terminology changes. Currently, 543.4 fees requires a timeshare developer seeking to reinstate an expired registration of a timeshare plan to pay certain fees to do so. The proposed amendments to 543.13 establish a corresponding reinstatement process for consistency with the timeshare rules and with rules related to other license types. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC 543.5 and 543.4, or excuse me, 13. I think I just said that wrong. Yes, 13, I'm sorry. And the form adopted by reference as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, this is the last one for me.
You're not happy about that, are you?
Agenda item 42 is discussion and possible action to conclude the review of 22 TAC Chapter 537 Professional Agreements and Standard Contracts and 22 TAC Chapter 543 Rules Relating to the Provisions of the Texas Timeshare Act. This was part of quadrennial rule review that we opened up earlier this year. This is kind of the spring cleaning for agency rules. So this agenda item will close that spring cleaning. After review of these chapters, staff has determined that the reasoned justification for adopting these chapters continues to exist. Furthermore, the review process indicated that certain rules needed to be amended for clarity or to better reflect applicable law, policies, or procedures. These amendments were adopted earlier in this meeting. No comments were received regarding the Commission's notice of review of these chapters, so the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to close the review of 22 TAC chapters 537, and 543 as presented.
Motion?
Second.
Second. All right, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Counsel Abby Lee. Quite a performance. Have a seat and get a drink of water. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Okay, next up, agenda item 43, discussion and possible action regarding the 2026 budget and 2026 investment policy and 2026 budget and financial administration policy. Chief Financial Officer Renata Williams, take it away.
Good afternoon, Renata Williams for the record. All related draft budget documents were sent under separate cover, and as Commissioner Woodruff mentioned in his report, the Budget Committee did meet to go over these documents back in July. As you look through the documents, I just want to point out a few things. That first, the budget is presented as a 3-year budget, with the first year labeled Proposed 2026 is the only year intended to be adopted, while projected 27 and 28 are to be considered a forecast. The Texas Real Estate Commission operates already on a lean budget, and expenditures are analyzed to ensure that the agency is operating as efficiently as possible. So some of the highlights that you're going to see within this budget is that the agency did not backfill 9.6 FTEs that were vacant during FY25, and the budget for those salaries have been removed from the FY26 line items for salary and wages. This is a cost savings of $488,000 to the agency. A 3% merit is included in the salaries and wages category for each employee to receive a merit up to 3% of their base salary. And of course, merits are based on director's discretion and employee's performance. Professional fees and services is increased to account for a tentative web development project, which is estimated at $400,000. If we're able to proceed, this will be a one-time expense, and we will see a decrease in this category in 27 and 28. Equipment rental decreased as we are on our final laptop lease, which expires December 31st of 2025, and we've shifted to purchasing equipment instead. The other operating expense category recognized an overall decrease as well, as we identified efficiencies and eliminated costs, such as decreasing the number of attendees at conferences, so the conference registrations decreased professional memberships, eliminated some subscriptions, decreased the number of licenses for software that we had. So we just kind of scrubbed things and cleaned it up where we could. Capital expenditures that we have, they include the remaining Realm project implementation costs and some server room upgrades. So in regards to the actual draft of the budget, you'll notice that we are projecting starting FY26 with a beginning balance of $12.6 million. We have 4.9 in our operating reserves and 7.7 as on reserve. We're projecting revenue of approximately $13.2 million and expenditures of $20.3 million. This would be an operational loss of $7 million. And we need to use a portion of the unreserved funds to cover the deficit. We'd start FY27 with a beginning balance of $5.5 million. $4.5 million would be for operational reserves, which is essentially 3 months of our expenditures. This leaves $979,000 as unreserved. We are projecting $13.7 million as revenue, $18.9 million as expenditures, with an operational loss of $5.5 million. We would exhaust all remaining unreserved funds and tap into our operational reserves in order to cover that deficit. This leaves us with $333,000 as our beginning balance for FY28. We'd use those funds for our operational reserves, and of course, that's less than our 3-month requirement. We're projecting $13.9 million of revenue and expenditures of $18.6 million. This would leave a $5 million deficit. So the takeaway that I want you all to kind of keep in mind is that we've been doing exactly that as we were directed to do by Sunset. We've improved our customer service hold times, we've decreased license application processing times, we've improved our complaint resolution times, and we're exploring options to decrease our expenditures further. But as I showed in our budget report earlier, the licensing fees make up 90% of our revenue. And whenever we have deviations in that category, it affects us greatly. And the data that Director Sample showed earlier justified what we're seeing on the finance side, where we're seeing a decrease in the initial applications for sales agents. And we're also seeing a decrease in our exam revenue. Our renewals are remaining steady, so that's the good side. Moving on to agency staffing, we're not adding any new positions. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, we're eliminating the 9.6 that remain vacant through FY25, and this will bring our total FTEs down to 141.68. That's the overall for the budget, and then I will move right into the budget and financial administration policy. Okay, and you've also received those documents as well, so the budget and financial administration policy as well as the investment policy. After reviewing both of those documents and both policies with the Budget Committee, there were no proposed changes to any of the verbiage, and it is the same as what was approved in the August 2024 meeting. The Commission is required to review those documents annually, and it is included in your meeting materials as a part of the budget for adoption. Staff recommendation is that the Commission approve the FY 2026 budget, the FY 2026 investment policy, and the FY 2026 budget and financial administration policy as presented.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, need a second?
This is the first read of the budget, right?
No, sir, this is second. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And so we would have to approve it now, and then it would be ready for submission in,
You would approve it today for August, and it's effective September 1st.
okay,
Yes, sir.
good,
Any other questions?
good work.
Yeah, excellent work.
Thank you, sir.
They must have had a really good chair.
They did the best they could, you know. All right, so we're going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Very nice work. Thank you for,
Abby, you had a question?
Oh, no, we're good. Thank you.
okay.
And the next agenda item as well. Agenda item 44, sir, is the report on the Public Funds Investment Act, PFIA training compliance. So in accordance with the Texas Government Code 2256.007D, the investment officer shall prepare a report on the subchapter investment training state agency board members and officers not later than the 180th day after the last day of regular session. The Public Funds Investment Act requires that the governing body members and its investment officers attend at least one training session related to the person's responsibilities under this chapter within 6 months after taking or assuming duties. In addition, the investment officers must attend a training session not less than once each state fiscal biennium. This report affirms that the governing board and its investment officers are in compliance with the PFIA training requirements. And included in your materials is a report that details the training completion date of each commissioner, board member, and the assigned investment officers.
Okay. So we need a motion.
Just
Just
a
a
report.
No. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now we're moving on to agenda item 48, discussion and possible action to approve the text of legal update 1 and 2, required continuing education courses for 2026 and 27. And yes, the Director of Education and Examination Services, Jennifer Willett, take it away.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Agenda item 48 is discussion and possible action to approve the text materials for the 2026-2027 Legal Update 1 and 2 courses. These course materials were sent to you under separate cover. As always, corresponding PowerPoint will be developed and made available prior to the instructor trainings. The new versions of the courses will incorporate new videos, graphics, interactive exercises, and helpful instructional training tools into the student and instructor manuals prior to publication. Last Thursday, we launched a new website for instructor training registration, In the last few days, we've received over 100 registrations already. With that said, the staff recommendation is that you approve these text materials with any technical or non-substantive changes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Executive Director Chelsea Buckholz will talk about the MOU.
We're almost there.
Bring
We're
us
so
home.
close. Okay, before you today are changes to the Memorandum of Understanding between TREC and TALCB. This is a long-standing document that predates me and historically outlines the shared costs and resources of the agency. So in Exhibit A of this MOU, which begins in your materials on page 204, you'll see a list of estimated percentages of staff time covered by the board where specific staff have dual roles between the board and the commission. These percentages have changed over the years as duties and responsibilities are shifted one way or another. So two things have occurred this year that requires change to this Exhibit A. Exhibit A is found on page 207 of your materials. So we shifted how we handle public information requests when we hired Brittany Ramirez as our Public Information Officer and Assistant General Counsel. And now TALCB is covering 10% of her salary. So you'll see that line item on Exhibit A. Additionally, the education function for the board moved from the TREC Education and Examination Services Division to the TALCB umbrella without additional staff. So this resulted in a reduction in what TALCB pays to TREC for education services, because where the board used to pay 50% of one person's salary, they now cover those duties without having hired additional staff. So this results in an additional cost to TREC. Together, these changes result in a $15,500 reduction in what TALCB pays to TREC to cover specific staff resources. On Friday, the board met and voted to shift that difference, $15,500, to a general cost allocation payment to basically keep the amount they pay to TREC flush. So on page 2 of the draft MOU, that's back on page 205 of your materials.
Chelsea, we have it as 438, I think.
Oh, are you serious? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I think I messed up between TREC and TALCB.
Yeah.
Materials then. So, or
438.
Or I have it in two chunks. Maybe that was it. I'm sorry. Okay, so on 438 of the materials, where you see a mention of an additional cost allocation, it's like XX with a number sign there. The big question is what to put there. The board voted to plug $15,500 there, basically to keep the amount that they pay to TREC flush. And so I'm asking for the same approval from the commission to complete the changes to this MOU. Is that clear as mud?
So those are in addition to what's identified in Exhibit A.
Correct. So you have Exhibit A, which identifies the percentage of specific staff.
Okay.
And then the general cost allocation mentioned earlier in the body of the MOU is intended to reimburse TREC for some of the administrative expenses that TREC covers generally for TALCB. That's things like HR, finance, communications. I'm missing one.
Audit?
We don't employ an auditor, so it wouldn't be that, but it's basically general administration.
Well, here's where I was wondering about with respect to the audit. As you saw this morning, the internal audit projected for this coming year is $43,000, which in theory includes, one of their members, Chance, is a sitting member of the audit committee, right? Which would indicate that the TALCB is a stakeholder in the internal audit function of the commission as well as the board, right? And so
Correct.
in my view, I think that it would be appropriate for them to share an administrative burden with respect to the internal audit.
I'm going to consult Renata real fast. Do they pay for any of that? 5,000. Okay, so there was discussion of that during, in the last fiscal year, because of the board's interest in kind of expanding the time and the expense of audits. And they began paying $5,000 for our total audit expense. We can look into that into the future, into like how we share those audit expenses. That's a great thought. It's not included here.
So they've been paying those 5,000 outside of this MOU?
Correct.
Okay. I would add
Within
it
their
just-
budget.
Just to memorialize it.
Okay.
Yep. That's my comment.
All right. Well, let's see, we need a motion.
So if you agree to the addition of the 15,500, I would just suggest that there's a motion to approve staff's recommendation to add the 15,500 where appropriate in the MOU.
Chelsea, at one point it said at no cost. What was that all about?
I do not know. I wish I knew. And that's it used to say no cost, and now we're kind of shifting to a shared cost allocation. I think there's considerable worry on the board side that TREC would come back and say, oh, how about more? How about more each year? So I want to make that known. But I think this is really a good faith effort on their part to acknowledge the support they receive from TREC, and to make sure that the shifting of resources that you see in Exhibit A doesn't result in a detriment to TREC.
Need a second? We've got a motion to adopt. Second. Okay, discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And that is to include the 15.5, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, agenda item 50, discussion and possible action regarding topics for November workshop, our annual training.
So we'll have annual training. That's part of the November workshop.
Yeah, by the way, we have annual training.
Welcome to the commission.
Yeah, they probably didn't put that in the flyer. But anyway, yeah, so we have that in November.
Yes, and I heard someone else mention the Realm, I think it was you,
Yes.
Commissioner Pena.
I think that's great.
Realm launch implementation. Okay.
Any other ideas for topics for training?
We talked about the inspector, I guess, enforcement issue that it doesn't have to be in November, or maybe it could even be addressed at the committee level. How would that direction to the inspector committee be forwarded? I guess we could just.
Yeah, so you could provide your feedback now, but I think ultimately that would go to inspectors first to look into. And so
Yes.
that could be something that could be placed on the October inspector committee agenda before it came to workshop.
Perfect.
All right. Agenda item 51, discussions and possible action regarding future agenda. Anything we'd like to?
Chelsea, did you mention that we're not able to do the website, even change the look and feel at this time when we launch?
You'll see updates to the website to account for the database, but we have not budgeted for that until we have a better idea of what our revenue looks like based on a potential fee increase.
Do you know how much it would cost if we wanted to do it?
I have received estimates in the past. I don't have those figures off the top of my head, but I can collect that and share it with you.
Didn't Renata say it was 400,000?
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like a whole lot.
There's plenty more economic ways to do that.
We've gone through the RFP process, and what we received back, there was a very wide spectrum of options out there. This is a very complex website because of how it interfaces with our database and other things. So I think it's very different than just like an off-the-shelf product.
Makes sense. Okay, so for future agenda items. Okay, nothing of note. Let's see here. Item 52, agenda item 52, we're almost there. Discussion and possible schedule future meetings. Looks like we've got November meetings on the 3rd and 4th, February 9th and 10th. So, calendars, and 53 is adjourned. So, thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I would like to say that someone in the public comment section mentioned that the meeting was posted for 10 a.m. today, and I'm actually looking at the website, and it does say 9 a.m.
Yeah, I think they had checked it.
We have a theory. If you put in a Google search, the first thing that pops up is AI, and AI says 10 o'clock. But everything on our website and all of our social media says 9. So that may be the distinction.
Okay.
We can't do anything about that AI glitch. AI is not always right. That's the moral of the story today.
Yeah. And so I guess for the difference in time change, we normally do start at 10 o'clock, and I guess for the purpose of a long agenda item due to rule changes, sometimes we do move up the time. So I urge the public to check the official TREC website for the official time, so that you're able to be here on time, particularly the commissioners as well.
Well, there you go. All right. Anything else? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
And then just a reminder that the workshop